Municipalities are Mafube, Mokaka, Litimeng, Nkituana, Nala, Masulunyan, and Lijuela Putua. The party today announced the outcomes of yesterday's special PEC meeting. The ANC citing persistent disclaimers, weak leadership, and poor governance, which undermine service delivery, including allegations of corruption. The party's provincial secretary is Polediso Mutweneng.
PEC resolved that there will be priority municipalities that will be affected as a result of the reports. These are as a result, the intervention is as a result of persistent disclaimers in terms of the Asia reports.
The case against a 16-year-old minor linked to the attack of 3 DAMPs in Philippi in Cape Town has been postponed to the 28th of August for bail information. Ian Cameron, Nicholas Gottsell and Lisa Schikkeling came under attack after an oversight visit to the SAPS training center in Philippi on Tuesday. The minor is one of 2 suspects linked to the incident. NPA spokesperson in the Western Cape, Ndabazalila, says that the suspects face several charges.
The NPA can confirm that the 16-year-old appeared at the Athlone Magistrate Court, charged with attempted robbery with aggravating circumstances. His co-accused, Lisole Tuklas, 18 years old, appeared in absentia as he is in hospital. He has been notified of the postponement date and may appear in court as soon as he is discharged. More charges are likely to be added as the investigation continues.
The Limpopo Transport Department says 39 people, including 30 learners from a special school, have been injured in a bus crash on the R71 at Mahubaskloof outside Tzaneen. The wounded have been taken to 3 hospitals in the Tzaneen area. The department spokesperson, Matome Dawiatswala, says traffic officers, emergency services personnel and police are still at the scene.
We can confirm that a bus accident has occurred on the R72 and Mahubaskloof, and the details of the accident are not yet clear or the cause thereof of the accident. Preliminary reports indicate that a Department of Education bus carrying 39 individuals, including 30 kids from a special school, was involved in the accident. The scene is under control with our officers conducting point duty services as only one lane is usable. The details of the injuries and the accident will be available once the next of kin has been informed.
German prosecutors say a Ukrainian man has been arrested in Italy on suspicion of being one of the people behind the explosions that ruptured undersea Nord Stream gas pipelines in the Baltic 3 years ago. The man is believed to have helped coordinate the sabotage. The BBC's Bethany Bell has the details.
Italian police arrested Serhii K. on Wednesday evening in the province of Rimini. In a statement, German prosecutors said he belonged to a group of individuals who placed explosive devices on the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 gas pipelines near the island of Bornholm in 2022. They said the suspect is believed to have been one of the coordinators of the operation. He and his accomplices are accused of using a sailing yacht that departed from Rostock. The explosions took place on the 26th of September that year, severely damaging both pipelines.
Recapping the top story, the dissolved Board of South African Tourism says it's exploring various options, including legal action, following the decision by the Minister of Tourism to dissolve it yesterday. I'm Ondilambana for SFM News headlines at 3:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Trevor Manuel appointed as chair of 2027 Cricket World Cup Organising Committee. Zwane ruled out of action for the next 2 months and 1 day to go to the Women's Rugby World Cup. More details at 3:30.
After a 1-0 draw in the first leg, Masandawana chased victory in their own backyard. While defending champions, Amapagania believe nothing is as sweet as a win away from home. This is the MTN 8 second leg semi-final. Wafa wafa! Do not miss out on Mamelodi Sundowns versus Orlando Pirates this Saturday, 23 August at 2 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC Plus. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Babina Noko have a mammoth task to triumph with a convincing margin. But 2024 finalists, Stellies, want to protect their 2-0 lead to return to the final. This is the MTN 8 second leg semi-final. Wafa wafa! Catch Sikukune United versus Stellenbosch FC this Saturday, 23 August at 5:30 p.m. live on SABC2 and SABC Plus. Also available on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All. We honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, you may have heard this story before, right? Here am I'm talking about a long, long time ago, and this is Lighty going to school. And as I get to school, the school, phys ed teacher sees me and recognizes me and tells me, you're a Garda, right? And I say, yeah. And he said, okay, you're picked. We're playing cricket tomorrow. We've got a game against another school. End of story. And of course, I was there. What's my point? Has it happened to you where your family reputation precedes you and therefore others expect you to be the same? So in fact, what I'm saying is I was picked fairly by a school teacher, deserve it or not, on the basis of he felt if I was a Garda, because the truth is I come from a cricket background family, then I must be a decent cricketer, which I wasn't anyway. So has it happened to you where in your own spaces you land up somewhere and they just assume that because you have the same, you're from that family, you must be pretty good? So let me give you an example. Another. If you're a Sisulu, would it have been the case that you're even at school or high school and someone says, okay, you can lead the political council of the school because obviously politics is in your blood. That sort of thing. Well, it happened to me. It may well happen to you sometime in the future, and I'd love to know what it is. So do share your story, whether your family reputation precedes you and you get identified on the basis of what they expect, only because that's what your family did. Deserve it or not. Well, my name's Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the National Pulse. We've got 3 hours of so much to talk about. We'll chat to Musi Maimani later on. He's critical about many things regarding the GNU and the national dialogue that just started over the weekend. But that's not all. There are many other things. There's a challenge to Paul Biya's attempt to run for election in the latest Cameroonian election. And that's not all, too. There's also a feature for you around retirement planning, specifically skewed to females. Very, very important as we now in the midst of Women's Month. As well as Zimbabwe, well, he's not happy with some of the comments from Lieutenant General Imkwanazi. And really, there's even more than that, okay? So we're going to talk about all those things. But I'll tell you what, let's start with something that, is going to get you thinking. We do know that the South African General Impanwa recent visit to Iran. We know about that, right? We also know there's been criticism because he's made some comments, and there's been some debate about whether, even President Ramaphosa should step in or not on that issue. Now, here's the thought, right? The EFF have warned the Trump administration not to interfere with South Africa's internal affairs, emphasizing the fact that South Africa is an independent country, and I quote them, "We reserve the right to pursue trade, diplomatic and military relations with whomever we deem fit, including Iran." Well, that's the basis of our conversation. First up here on the National Pulse, you can call in 2086 000 2032. Does the EFF have a point that if a general from our country visits another country that a third country may like or not like, can they comment about it, or the fact that we can do what we want as a country? WhatsApp, you can WhatsApp, text or voice note 0614 104 107. And you know the story, you can tweet anytime, hashtag The National Pulse, and then tag SFM Radio and tag me. Well, to talk us through the EFF's position on this and explaining why they believe what they believe is Sinao Tambo. Appreciate your time, as always, here on the National Pulse.
Greetings, Ashraf, and greetings to the listeners.
Okay, so what is it that is so, gold EFF that has got you to issue a statement suggesting that the Americans must, stay in their lane?
Look, as the EFF, we observed, because if you remember, this entire fallout happened last week. What we found quite peculiar, which was the intervention of DERCO and the intervention of the presidency on a visit which was scheduled according to the Minister of Defense, which is Angie Motshekga, in 2024, where the general visited Iran and visited his counterparts there and had interactions on the basis that, first and foremost, we must all assert that South Africa does not have hostile diplomatic, trade, economic, or military relations with Iran. We've got a relationship with Iran. So it was odd to us to observe the fact that there was this uproar that the general, first and foremost, visited Iran, met with his counterparts, and made comments that reflect the relationship that South Africa has with Iran particularly. But yesterday, I think what rose our eye the most was the fact that the United States seems to operate with a level of paternalism that whoever they deem their enemies at a particular point in time, whoever they have a hostile relationship geopolitically at any particular point in time, nations such as South Africa must be averse to them. And that reflects the arrogance, the paternalism, and a sense of thinking that South Africa is a colony of the United States of America that the United States of America operates under. So the enemies of the United States of America are not the enemies of South Africa. So just because there are these tense trade relationships, which are not unique to South Africa as it relates to the United States of America, it doesn't mean that we must now have hostilities with whomever the United States of America has hostilities with. So we released a statement this morning rejecting their request for us to go and explain ourselves, because South Africa is not some child or colony of the United States of America where we have to explain who we have a relationship with, why we have that relationship with those particular type of people, and as if we have to now operate under that manner. And the interventions of Cyril Ramaphosa, we think, were an overstepping of his role, because there's a reason he doesn't sort of manage the traveling affairs of members of the South African National Defense Forces, because they operate in their own sphere. And if we allow this type of political meddling that seeks to appease people like Donald Trump, it will spiral out of control, because the South African National Defense Force does not exist for such purposes.
No, I mean, in my understanding, and give me your thoughts from an EFF perspective, is that in this case here, as opposed to a cabinet minister, because we've had those conversations about cabinet ministers recently, that the head of the South African National Defense Force does not require the permission of the president to visit, whether it's the military or others in another country. Yes, no.
No, they do not. So it's under the purview of the Minister of Defense, Angie Motshekga, and she alluded to this. She first and foremost explained to the nation that this trip was scheduled in 2024. Now, the current levels of tensions between the United States of America and Iran were not at the level that they're at now in 2024. But secondly, trips, which is what Vincent Magwanya spoke to when he said that the president was not aware, nor did he sanction this trip. I don't know why he would speak about sanctioning of the trip, because it's not under the president's purview to sanction trips of generals of the SANDF. It was sanctioned by the Minister of Defense because it's under her jurisdiction. So for the president to enter this in a level of panic, it reveals to us that it's not because of any concern for diplomatic relations or an overstepping of powers by SANDF. It's simply to try and appease the United States of America, which has now yesterday revealed that they've demanded an explanation. You would have found that this explanation was demanded of Cyril Ramaphosa once those utterances were made by the general. It is only yesterday that the United States of America, in an attempt to embarrass Cyril Ramaphosa, has made public their request for us to go and explain ourselves. So you can see this is not a genuine reflection of concern around whether the SANDF is overstepping its powers by entering the diplomatic terrain. It's just an attempt to appease the United States of America, and it's something we must not accept. We must not have our diplomatic, trade, economic or military relationships dictated to by a foreign power. And the U.S. needs to accept that fact, that we can be friends with whom we want to be friends with, we can be enemies with whom we want to be friends with. And if that will dictate our trade relationships, then that is manipulation and that is bullying.
Well, I think, that sort of quote loosely was first made by the former president of our country, Nelson Mandela, right? I think in reference to people like Yasser Arafat of the PLO at the time, and I think there's probably like Fidel Castro too, right? So that's no surprise from a South African perspective. But what for you besides the US saying South Africa should explain itself, has so upset the EFF? I'm looking from your perspective. What is it that they've said that has angered you?
Look, the US is just practicing its typical aggression towards South Africa, and this is just yet another excuse to treat us like children. So as we said, initially we were observing the situation because we were still trying to ascertain as to what exactly sparked anger from the president, because there's nothing unusual about the trip by the general of the SANDF. If the general of the SANDF, for example, and this is something that Angie Motshekga also said, had visited the Israeli Defense Force in Israel, we would not have heard any murmurs, we would not have heard any outrage. If the general of the SANDF had visited counterparts in the European Union or counterparts even in the United States of America, there would not be any uproar. But just because now it is with Iran, and there's some sort of hostility between Iran and the United States of America because Iran has retaliated to bombings by the Israeli Defense Force, has retaliated to the support by the US to the Israeli Defense Force. Now we are being called upon to explain ourselves. That is when our eye was struck, because we wanted to give the diplomatic space to the president, to the SANDF, to the Minister of Defense, to sort of resolve the situation amongst themselves. But you can see that there's contradictory messaging from the presidency, from the Minister of the Defense Force, who sits in the cabinet with the president, and now the United States of America is taking advantage of that by rendering us as children. And that is what upset us, the EFF, that we can't allow our military diplomatic policy to be dictated to by a foreign power.
What do you therefore understand? I mean, and maybe it overlaps, clearly does, that the president of our country had to distance himself from that trip. So it may be allowed, but he still distanced himself from the general of the South African National Defense Force going to Iran and speaking with his counterparts there.
I find it peculiar, and as the EFF, we find it quite unusual, because it would be warranted if the president of South Africa distanced himself from the visits by the general to Iran if South Africa did not have diplomatic, trade, economic, and military relationship with Iran. We don't have any trade embargo between ourselves and Iran. We don't have any diplomatic fallout between ourselves and Iran. If that was the context and the case, it would then be understandable why Cyril Ramaphosa would have to distance himself, because that general will be acting out of bounds from the diplomatic terrain and the relationships that we have as a nation with that country. But there's no such a thing between South Africa and Iran. We have a good relationship. Most recently, in the past couple of months, the ruling party, which has deployed Cyril Ramaphosa to be the president of South Africa, met with the Iranian embassy at Luthuli House. As the EFF, we've also met with the Iranian embassy counter representatives at Winnie Madikizela Mandela House. This shows you that South Africa does not have a terrible or hostile relationship with Iran. It is inconvenient now because South Africa is trying to mend its trade relationship with the United States of America for a South African National Defense Force general to meet with Iran. But that inconvenience should not dictate our relationships internationally.
Okay.
And that's why we found it so unusual.
No, I mean, I'm looking at some of the comments made by different parties within South Africa's political space. The DA said that the general should be court-martialed for exceeding his mandate and violating SANDF neutrality. Action SA talks about him going rogue. Rising Mzansi's Zongezo Zibi also demand the dismissal of the general. And there's more like that, right? From an EFF perspective, notwithstanding what you feel, what do you hope to achieve by going public about your opposition to the United States? Meaning, at this time of things going to overboil, you can't do much about what they think and feel, but what do you hope to achieve by it?
Look, I think the most important principle, Ashraf, is that we must not allow our diplomatic relationships to be dictated by the feelings and whims of the United States of America and its presidents. So those who are saying that the South African National Defense Force general has gone rogue or has broken some form of neutrality that dictates the SANDF generals, they must quote to us which specific legislations, which specific codes, and which specific statutes dictate neutrality of the SANDF. If South Africa does not have a diplomatic fallout with Iran, why is it so offensive for our South African National Defense Force to meet with their counterparts of Iran?
Okay.
What is unusual about that?
And they're part of the BRICS as well. I appreciate that.
And
Thank
we're
you.
part of the BRICS.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comments. Lots to come about that reaction from the EFF and your reaction to the EFF reaction to a South African head of the Defense Force effectively meeting his Iranian counterparts as per last week. This is the National Pulse, and I want to hear you. You're on the Pulse too, aren't you?
Bafana Bafana will host Nigeria in a FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifier at the Toyota Stadium on Tuesday, 9 September at 6 p.m. Tickets are now available nationwide and online from 70 Rand for adults and 40 Rand for children at all Ticket Pro outlets, including Spar, Postnet, and all petrol stations. Get your tickets early to avoid disappointment. Come in Bafana Bafana supporter gear, ready to sing for a win. Gates will open at 3 p.m. If you are not in Bloemfontein, catch the game on SABC2. For more information, visit safa.net and at Bafana Bafana on all social media channels.
The Uganda Cranes have a strong belief that they will celebrate to the referee's final whistle. But the Lions of Teranga trust their mission in search of a semi-final spot. This is the quarter-final encounter of the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch Uganda versus Senegal this Saturday, 23 August at 4 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right. Of course, I'm going to hear what you have to say. So what do you make of it? You know that the head of the South African National Defence Force, General Mapanwa, went to Iran recently, made a few comments, and you can debate the issues of the comments. But also the USA asked him to explain himself, asked South Africa to explain themselves. The president effectively distanced himself from that trip. But Angie Motshekga, the minister, made it very clear that in fact is within his rights, which is very different to a cabinet minister, something we've discussed, okay? The EFF now felt free that they need to effectively castigate the USA, telling them, really, stay in your lane. It's really none of your business who we meet, okay? So do they have a point? Let's hear you. You can call in live 086 000 2032. I'm going to take your calls now. WhatsApp, there's many WhatsApp voice notes already on this issue. 0614 104 107. Michael, you're opening the batting. You're in Gqeberha. Hi.
Afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah, afternoon.
Yeah, quick one. Is South Africa a colony of the US or what? I just want to understand.
Okay.
Is it a colony of the US where the US is, hey, why did you go and speak to this one? South Africa is a sovereign country. A sovereign country has their own diplomatic way of doing things. Why should they be dictated by the US? The US can invade any country that they want today or tomorrow. No one can tell them anything. So why are they saying, hey, no, don't speak to this one, don't speak to that one? No.
Okay, got that.
A sovereign state is a sovereign state.
Well, you made your point. Is it a colony? Well, I'll tell you what, if South Africa were a colony of the USA and the USA had a problem with the refugees, then Trump should be having a problem with himself because it's his refugees, in that case, being oppressed in his country, if you get my point. Michael in Gqeberha, thanks for that, right? You've made the point. Is South Africa a colony of the USA? Malou in Durban, right, let's get your thoughts. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf, how are you?
Yeah, good to connect with you. Go for it. What's your point?
I'm fine. No, Ashraf, the general is correct. We don't owe anybody anything except that he salutes the constitution of this republic and nothing else. So if the general feels that whatever is beneficial to the South African citizen, it's good, then let it be so. Other than the USA, we don't dictate anything to the USA, so let it be so. They mustn't come and dictate to us whom we meet and whom we do not meet. And on top of that, Iran is very strategic for South Africa, Ashraf, because they have one of the cheapest oils. And I remember at one stage they even proposed that they sell direct oil to South Africa, which currently we are struggling with this dollar exchange in terms of trading of this mineral, the oil, For me, I hope the president lives up to that and relieve us in terms of the oil prices that are skyrocketing every day. Thank you.
Okay, got that. Well, listen, at the best of times, global politics is maybe sensitive is the right word. I don't know. I think it's complex. That's really what it is. Meaning, for example, even Trump, for example, can be critical and literally kick out the Ukrainian president one day and then have coffee with him a few weeks later. For example, it does happen. You can be critical of the Russians and then still meet them and so on, right? So isn't that the way geopolitics works? There's a lot of diplomacy, there's a lot of criticism, but there's a difference between that and actually sanctioning other countries and say, you will not talk to so-and-so, which is really what I think there's been a criticism of from the EFF perspective to say, why would you tell us who we should be speaking to? In fact, that's the Mandela way, isn't it? Glenn in Bedford View, go for it. Hi, Glenn. Glenn, you're live. Hi.
Yes, I don't think this matter the president will win, because the first mistake the president made was to go and beg for that meeting with Trump. Therefore, Trump knows that the president is weak at the moment, so he can control him anyhow he wants. There was nothing wrong with the defense force chief going to Iran. There's nothing wrong with that. But Trump is using this to his advantage because he knows that Ramaphosa is very weak. He doesn't have a backbone. Thank you very much.
Okay, got that point made and made very quickly. Another thought on this. There's so many comments on this issue. I'm struggling to cope. Tebogo in Benoni, what's your point?
Hi, Ashraf. How's it?
Yeah, good indeed. Thank you.
Good. Listen, why is EFF expressing this thing as if they're expressing in their official capacity? Because they're not even part of the GNU. For them to be dictating to the GNU what official position should be taken, I think she's upset. I think they should form part of government first before they express such views.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen. I mean, I also asked that question about why. The fact is, the reason they would do so is they're a party in opposition, and therefore their role is to keep the government in check. So in this case, you can ask the question, what do they hope to gain by knocking another country, not just South Africa, right? Is that high risk or not? But in fact, they're not the only ones. Others, even the DA has commented, Action SA has commented, Rising Sun has also commented.
But they're not commenting officially to the US. They're commenting locally. That's a role of an official or an opposition within government. You cannot now be expressing external views because they're not even part of foreign affairs of South Africa.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're doing it, but they're not doing it as government. I mean, everybody knows they're not government. They're the EFF. Their statement is on an EFF letterhead. It's not on a government letterhead.
All right.
I mean, they're not purporting to be government, not at all, right? In fact, they're critical of the president in the same statement. So I hear you, however. Tebogo, thanks for that. JJ Polokwane, go for it.
Ashraf, good day.
Yeah, good day.
Thinking is a hard work. You see, the people who are saying the president should not do this, should not do this, it's because they are not following the event with logic and sophistication. The president is the one who spoke to Donald Trump to say, please, can you meet also with the Russian president? Can you meet also with this president? And at the same time, he is talking to these people to create peace in wherever there is a war, including Israel and Palestine. So people mustn't think that America is not afraid of anyone. It's afraid of any nation that exists because they don't know what that nation can do to them. And because the president here can talk freely with Donald Trump and request him to meet with Putin, and those things are official. We are told they are in the media nearly every day. But when Trump wants to know, hey, Ramaphosa, your general went here, what could be the problem? Then they take it, no, he's giving us a directive. But these people are interacting on daily basis.
Yeah, but why would he have to do it on a public platform?
There's nothing wrong with me when I'm talking to Ashraf. And Ashraf, yesterday, I've requested for something. And he hears that the other day I went to Donald. And because our rapport is not so very bad, Ashraf can ask me, JJ, I see you at that place. What was happening? Because even myself, I want to keep the relationship going.
But then you can WhatsApp the person. Why do it on an official channel? Just WhatsApp like, hey, where were you going, JJ? That's it.
No,
really.
I'm not talking about the EFF. I'm talking about the relationships of the countries that I've mentioned.
No, I heard what your point is. So why wouldn't Trump just WhatsApp Ramaphosa? I mean, seriously. Okay, I think I got your point. There's lots of people having different points. Here's the thought. I mean, just before we get to the news headlines, right? One is what the general, what did he go and do there? Does he need permission? I think we know he does not need the permission of the president to go there. He's the head of the army or the defense force. Number 3 is the pronouncements that he made, which we can talk about separately. But the fourth one is Does the president have to distance himself from that visit? Like, why is there a need for that? And then what about the USA effectively asking for an explanation? I mean, like, why would they need to do that? And then from the EFF perspective, by them saying what they want to say as an opposition party, are they fueling the fires between South Africa and the USA that is also out of their control? And what would they want to gain out of that? Right, lots to consider, okay? Here's Rondella Imbana with the headlines, news headlines at 3:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the Department of International Relations and Cooperation has dismissed the 2024 U.S. Human Rights Report's commentary on safety in South Africa's rural and farming communities. The dissolved board of South African Tourism says it's exploring various options, including legal action, following the decision about the Minister of Tourism to dissolve it yesterday. And Build One South Africa has set out clear conditions for it to consider joining the Government of National Unity. Busalida Musi Maimane says they will join a GNU with parties that are racist and want to divide the country. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview, queuing on the link to the N12 East at Kilulis Interchange. The M1 southbound is slow moving towards Crown Interchange, and the N1 northbound has delays on the link to the N12 East at Diepkloof Interchange. In KZN, truck congestion reported in the Bayhead area, so expect delays, and on Umhlanga Rocks Drive, roadworks with traffic restrictions near Longwoods Drive. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound, slow moving towards Hospital Bend, Victoria Road outbound is slow moving through Woodstock, and the M5 southbound, slow moving towards Cromboom Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, Chumi, you've got news about our cricketers.
Yeah, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Cricket South Africa has announced former Finance Minister Trevor Manuel as the independent chairman to lead a local organising committee board for the 2027 ICC Men's Cricket World Cup. Manuel will be supported by a team of independent and non-executive directors, along with the ex-official members. With just 2 years to go, the board's main task is to deliver a memorable and distinctly African World Cup while also growing cricket in new areas across Southern Africa. Now, the tournament will be hosted with Zimbabwe and Namibia, with 44 matches scheduled in South Africa across cities, including Johannesburg, Pretoria, Cape Town, Durban, Gqeberha, Bloemfontein, East London and Paarl, and 10 more matches will take place in Zimbabwe and Namibia. Meanwhile, Proteas coach Shukri Conrad has explained what it is that got spin bowler Pranillan Subrayan in hot water with the ICC. This is after he was flagged for suspect bowling action. Subrayan has been haunted by issues with his bowling action for years, which now seem to have spilled into his international career after making his ODI debut just this week. He now needs to undergo independent testing of his action at an ICC accredited testing center within 14 days, and Conrad wants it done as soon as possible.
They flagged 12 balls. I think they forwarded to us, and I don't know enough about this, but I think he's got to emulate those 12 balls during the test. We're going to be sending our bowling coach with as well, just to be there with him and just to support, and then obviously for us to be gain some knowledge as to how all of these things work.
Then in football, Mamelodi Sundowns captain Themba Zwane has been ruled out of action for the next 2 months. Zwane was forced off early in the MTN 8 first leg semi-final against Orlando Pirates last weekend and was absent from the squad yesterday. This marks the second serious injury for Zwane in less than a year after he spent several months on the sidelines at the start of last season. Meanwhile, Orlando Pirates head coach Abdeslam Wadu says that he was very relieved last night. This is after his side registered his first win of the season in the Betway Premiership, beating a stubborn Stellenbosch FC 1-0 at Orlando Stadium. The result sees Pirates being lifted to 11th on the log, and Wadu chose to continue with many of the team that started against Sundowns, and he says this was part of prioritizing a win in the league.
Yeah, in the position that we had, of course you have to think of priorities, and our priority today is to take 3 points and to at least to start to open the season. Of course, you can imagine that we have a very important game, but in football sometimes there are some priorities. We were not in the position that we can afford to think to the next game. Yeah, because today was very important to win and to start our season.
Elsewhere, Arsenal have agreed a £67.5 million, around 1.6 billion rand deal to sign Eberechi Eze from Crystal Palace after hijacking Tottenham Hotspur. Now, £60 million of that is guaranteed, and there will be £7.5 million in add-ons. Meanwhile, personal terms are close to be agreed. Then in rugby, 1 day to go until the start of the Rugby Women's World Cup, and Bok Women stepped up their preparations with a joint training session alongside Japan yesterday. Coach Suez de Bruin will announce the match 23 tomorrow with all 32 squad members available for selection. And Rua says that she expects Brazil to be a tough but important test in their World Cup journey.
I definitely think facing Brazil quite a few times on the 7th circuit, you win some, you lose some against them, some very close, some were a bit further away, slipped out of our hands. But I definitely think facing them at the Rugby World Cup, it's going to be a good one. I think as South Africans, rugby stays rugby, and we owe them one. But yeah, they're also a good side, quality players, and we'll definitely want to take this one from them.
Right, I'm going to end things right here in terms of my bulletin. I'll be back with more in the next hour.
Okay, certainly. Looking forward to that communication and maybe other things about what Chiefs winning 3 on the trot. Don't comment about that now. Things are changing in the world.
With misinformation and disinformation around us all the time, where can we turn to for news and information that is not fake? Radio, of course, your #1 trusted source of reliable and truthful news and information. For over 3 decades, we have been a signatory to the BCCSA Broadcasting Code of Conduct, and we pride ourselves as a trusted source of information. Say no to false news and disinformation that circulates online. Radio, keeping it real and fighting fake since day one. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, let's talk about other issues. By the way, I know you want to talk about the EFF response, effectively telling the USA to stay in their lane regarding the USA comments to South Africa to explain itself regarding South Africa's head of the Defence Force being in Iran as he was last week, right? So you can comment. We'll take live calls as soon as we can. 086 000 2032. Always aware of the need to engage you, but you can WhatsApp right away. Text or voice note, 30 seconds maximum if you're doing a voice note. 0614 104 107. I can tell you that's a great thrill to talk to you as always here on the National Pulse. But let's talk about Cameroon now. So their opposition leader is Akeri Muna. So he's taken up a position to approach the country's highest court to prevent President Paul Biya from contesting the upcoming election, which you may be aware, we've touched on it. It's going to happen in October in a few months' time, right? Now, here's the interesting part, and we've never got to this situation in South Africa before. Muna is arguing that Biya cannot contest the election, and I'm quoting, due to his advanced age. Okay, let's get the story. Dr. David Matsanga is an international relations and conflict resolution expert. Appreciate your time here on the National Pulse, Dr. Matsanga. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for joining me. Good afternoon across the continent of Africa. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, let's get it right. Advanced age, how old are we talking about here with Paul Biya?
First of all, Paul Biya is about 90 years. Or 89 to 90 years old. This is a gentleman who has ruled Cameroon with an iron hand, with a very, very tough just hold.
Yeah, okay. I think there's just a bad line. Right, can we talk now?
Just give me a few minutes.
All right. Okay, Dr. David Matsanga, we'll just put him on pause for the moment. I'll tell you what, let's see if we can, I can tell you a couple of things more that's coming up. Now, you know, on a Thursday, not a Friday, on a Thursday, we have the Channel Africa SAFM collaboration, right? So we'll do it again today around 4:15. Don't miss that. Looking forward to that. Another countdown to G20. So while we hold on for Dr. Matsanga, there are many people commenting about the issues we had already. Here's one on the USA.
SAFM, this is Peggy from KZN. What I need to find out, Ashraf, this thing of interference from the United States, it's getting a little bit out of hand. And we need to maybe to get a memo from them that we are now colonized by them and we answer to them. Because on what grounds are they justifying us going back and forth to them to explain our affairs, our internal affairs, even things that are happening at parliament level? Are we then saying that they are the ones who are responsible for South Africa? We now need to answer to them. No ways, guys. Just because we might look hungry and needing support from them doesn't mean that they need to dictate how we live.
But you see, I hear that last part, but isn't that what happens with the global, let's call it the Big Five or something, where the countries, in fact, not only support you, then they expect you to sort of play the game in the way that you expect them to play the game. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying, isn't that what happens often? And that is a problem.
Greetings, Ashraf. Nice topic. My surname is Maharaj, and I can't tell you what an advantage that is. It's like a collaborative advantage, everywhere you go. The surname Maharaj just does it, Roy Maharaj, Eastern Cape.
Okay. But listen, your question about your surname, Maharaj, right? Do they link it to a family? Because, it's such a common surname, and it's well known in a certain community. For example, Keshav Maharaj has just been named the world's number one one-day bowler in 50-over cricket as of today. So do they make that link? Because I want to know that too. Lala in Polokwane, let's get your thoughts. Hi.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I want to talk about the issue of Iran and America.
Yeah.
You remember that President Ramaphosa is not the first president South Africa who has been given such an instruction from America. President Mbeki was given that instruction in 2002 when, after America has decided to attack Iraq, and then they wanted President Mbeki to fire the ambassador of Iraq. And President Mbeki and his cabinet, they were bold enough to say, no, we're not going to do that. However, in around 2008, when the EFF, 2009, when the EFF, or the current leadership of the EFF was still in the ANC, President Jacob Zuma was given an instruction by Obama not to buy oil from Iran. And he decided to do that, not to buy it from Iran. So today when people are saying, they are thinking that America is doing this because President Ramaphosa is sick, it's not true. All the presidents have been given the instructions, and President Jacob Zuma obeyed the instructions from America. So that does not mean that President Ramaphosa is weak. President Ramaphosa must just do what he's supposed to do. That's how I see it.
Okay, but the question is, okay, I hear you, Lala, thanks for that, but what is he supposed to do? Like, seriously. So you see, here's an interesting one that I want to pick out. A tweet from Sizwe Sitlangu saying, America spends 900 million rands. No, let me get that right. That's too little. America spends 900 billion rands on our economy regarding jobs, etc. Russia spends less than 10 billion rands. And Americans can't tell you who you should be friends with. Okay? Does he have a point, isn't it? Right, what we'll do, there's another comment we'll pick out. No, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to pick out, we're going to go back to the conversation we had with Dr. David Matsanga right after this.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, let's get reconnected with Dr. David Matsanga. We're talking about the position in Cameroon, where their president, who's 90 plus, Dr. Paul Biya, wanting to contest the next election coming up in a couple of months' time. And there's been opposition, and there's a legal challenge against that. So, Dr. Matsanga, once again, thanks for connecting. So let's talk about that legal challenge then. I mean, that's come from the opposition. I can understand why the opposition leader wants to win an election, but how binding is that legal challenge? I mean, how strong is it?
First of all, that legal challenge will go nowhere. As I was telling you, Cameroon is a sad state of Africa, the state that we see that has always caused us the chaos that we see in that Central African tropical areas. Cameroon annexed Southern Cameroon. Human rights record, people are dying in southern English-speaking southern Cameroons, Amazonia. Nothing has been done. The international community has forgotten all about Cameroon. France has positioned itself behind Paul Biya. So that challenge in court will go nowhere. You just watch the space.
But I mean, look. Why won't it go nowhere? What I'm trying to say is that the legal challenge is the fact that he's advanced age, which means what? He will be compromised and therefore, unfit or incapable of leading. I mean, that's my understanding, right?
Yeah, but the man runs the court. He appoints the judges. Don't forget, you are dealing with a brutal dictator who has locked up 2,500 people. They're in jail without a trial. They are there. He kidnapped people from Nigeria, locked them up, put them without trial in Kangaroo at 5 a.m., locked them for life. How will you go in his court? He appoints the judges. Which judge is going to rule against Paul Biya? Who? Tell me. There will be no challenge. It will be thrown out.
Okay, so there's no conversation then from a legal perspective. You say it's going to be thrown out. Now, let me ask you your opinion then. Outside the legal position, right? I know what you've already said about him, so I have to say this, with caution. Does he still remain capable, actually, of running the country?
No, he's gone. He cannot even think where he is. He cannot even, Paul Biya doesn't know where he is. The other time he was in New York, he said, "Is this Cameroon?" They told him, "No, you are in the White House." Now, look, this is the problem of what we have in Africa. This guy has lost even the memory. I went to the European Court. I put an application to prevent Mr. Paul Biya from flying to United Kingdom, from flying to Switzerland to get medicine when he has denied his own people Panadols in his hospitals. So that one I was successful. He's now treated back in Yaoundé, not to fly to Switzerland for treatment. The only court that can manage Mr. Paul Biya is a trial at the International Criminal Court. He should be tried for the crimes he's committed against the people of Southern Cameroon.
Okay, Dr. Matsanga, so you, like you said, he doesn't know where he is. So then who then, two things very quickly, who then speaks on his behalf if he's not coherent himself? Hey?
The wife and the French. Macron and the cronies in Paris speak on his behalf. Do you know that the ambassador in Yaoundé is the one who put an application for Paul Biya to stand as a president? This is the highest hypocrisy of neo-colonialism that I have ever seen on this continent. Just the ambassador of France putting application papers for Paul Biya. What do they want on our continent? Why don't they leave our continent? Why are they still there? They have siphoned a lot of our resources, a lot of our minerals. Leave and go. Leave us to sort our mechanism.
Right, very quickly.
Give the Southern Cameroonians independence. Give the state. It was grabbed. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, quickly. You got like just 30 seconds. Quick one. What about the AU? In just one line.
My brother, AU is dead. AU is DEAD, is dead. Is a useless body captured by the French again. What will they do? Have they documented any crimes against humanity committed in Cameroon? No.
Okay.
Have they done anything? No. Have they intervened? No. AU is a useless body.
Okay, Dr. David Matsanga, and that's saying AU is dead. DEAD. Appreciate your time. As always, saying it the way, I won't say as is, but certainly the way he sees it. And you may see it similarly or you may see it differently. Either way, this is going to get your pulses racing. I have no doubt about it.
Get ready, South Africa! 12,000 athletes from every corner of the country will hit the ground running in the 5th edition of the Hollywood Bets Durban 10 Kilometer. A thrilling road race starting and finishing at Hollywood Bets Kingsmead Stadium. It's more than a race. It's all about community, good vibes, and rising to the challenge. Catch the action live on Saturday, 30th of August at 7 a.m. on SABC2, SABC Plus, and across SABC radio stations. Hashtag Let's Run and feel the energy. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply. You're listening to the National Pulse.
The AU is dead. DEAD. Do you agree with Dr. David Matsanga? But not just that. What about the EFF position regarding the USA and the USA position regarding South Africa and the USA position regarding South Africa's head of the army, defense force visiting Iran? In the meantime, let's get back home with something that in many ways may concern you and should concern you even more than all of the above, right? Which is being money smart and understanding your financial literacy. So it's Money Smart Week, by the way, which really is the country's biggest financial literacy campaign. Now, we all know this, that South Africans struggle with financial management. And this initiative around being, money smart and financial literacy is hope with the end goal to improve the country's financial literacy. The campaign starts, next week, in fact, 25th to the 31st of August, to the end of the month. And it's hosted under the theme of Smart Money, Financial Foundations for a Resilient Future. Perhaps we all should be taking advice, and maybe the government as well, in terms of the Ministry of Finance too, right? Well, with me is Alicia Moses, the Manager for Consumer Education at the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, which is the FSCA. Alicia, appreciate you connecting to us on the National Pulse.
Thank you, and good afternoon to our listeners.
Thank you. So let's talk about it. Interesting next week, Money Smart Week. Why the need to push financial foundations for a resilient future? I mean, it seemed pretty obvious for me, but having said it, why? Why is there a need for that?
So in South Africa, we really, we have many challenges that we face as consumers and the everyday man on the street. And if we're thinking about the topic of retirement planning and resilience thereof, it means we need to learn how to manage our money in a way that we can handle life's up and downs, okay? And we know that life is full of those. Whether it's unexpected costs or losing a job, it's important to kind of plan for the future or those unexpected expenses. So if you have a bit of smart money habits, it can help you stay strong and you can bounce back. These habits can then be shared with those around you, and you can build their resilience as well.
So let's then talk about these sort of smart money ideas. You heard in the intro, you're saying that, in fact, many South Africans struggle with financial literacy or financial management literacy, right? Do you have the numbers? I mean, what does the data say? What percentage of people have got a lid on financial management?
I think let's look, I really don't want to paint dismal pictures, but if we look at the debt-income ratio in South Africa, a lot of South Africans, over 70% of their income is currently servicing debt. And that basically indicates to us that we have a debt issue. If we look at retirement stats, at the moment our baseline study for financial education says that only about 6% of South Africans are able to retire comfortably. That means that they have enough money to maintain their lifestyle without financial stress. This is dire because what happens to the rest of the South Africans when they get to the retirement age? Where are they going to get income from? What reliance are they going to have? And this often puts a lot of pressure and burden on family members, government grants, or it means you have to work beyond retirement age. And if you are elderly, you may have other challenges like health challenges, which doesn't permit you to work as long as you would like to. So things like low savings rates, lack of access to pension funds, especially in informal jobs, and the rising cost of living. Besides that, scams as well are also targeting South African consumers in their desperation just to survive. So the reality is clear. Most people aren't financially prepared, and that's why it's so important to start planning and thinking about your money more intentionally.
Now, just the last thing before we move on to to the practicalities of what you're saying is, how much of that is because there's a lack of financial literacy or a lack of financial management literacy, or the fact there's an inherited lack of ability to be upward mobile from your financial position because of this massive legacy of apartheid, where still so many people effectively are impoverished?
If we look at education in itself, there's literacy levels, there's digital literacy, and then there's also financial literacy now that I'm throwing this new term out. And I think it also goes back way early to how you grew up. And how did you grow up as an individual? Did you grow up in a situation or in a family that was open about money? Did they discuss finances? Were you aware of your parents' financial situation? Were you sitting at the table when they were working out sums? Or were you living with a granny who was able to take her, the very little she had, and actually stretch it to such an extent? So the way you were brought up and your introduction to finances, many of us only got introduced to finance or the world of finance when we get our first formal job. We know that this is the amount of money we need and we can do A, B, and C to get our needs done. But in terms of financial literacy, there are so many tips and tricks and other elements that you can incorporate to actually get a little bit smarter with finances and kind of build a legacy for those that come after you. So the change starts with you, no matter where you are right now in your life. I think now's the time for our listeners to actually dig in deeper and not wait to make mistakes before they learn, but try and be a little bit forearmed and forewarned.
So, okay, give me some practical steps to take now, and they don't have to wait till next week. I know next week is that all-important week. They can start it, tonight, right?
Yeah, so some practical steps in getting your financial journey or, just getting a bit more savvy around your finance. I think it's very important for consumers to take down a pen and paper and just to list down what are their needs and what are their expenses. Okay, and your needs, we need to go back to basics. Needs is water and light, electricity, a roof over your head, a transportation if you are moving around, and then put down your wants, and then compare that to what you're actually spending right now. And you look at your needs and your wants, and you kind of prioritize your needs over your wants, all right? Then you look at what's left over. Is there money to save? Is there money to invest? Where can I reduce so that there is a little bit left over? And then you start thinking about the future. Okay, one day, what are your goals? Do you want to buy a TV? You want to buy a nice fancy cell phone? Okay, let's see at your options. Are there better ways to do that so that you don't have to get yourself heavily in debt? Go online, speak to friends, see how they are managing their finances, go online for some tips and tools, some calculators, savings calculators, get a budget template. It doesn't mean because you earn less you don't need a budget. Budgeting is actually a skill. It's a lifelong skill, and it's not something you do once off, okay? So I think I'd also say do this thing every month until you master it, because life does change. Tomorrow you have an unexpected expense, and then your budget goes a little bit off. And then you amend it, you adjust it, you incorporate some savings for the future, some savings for short-term goals like a TV, or long-term for education, or even retirement.
Okay, budgeting is a skill. a lifelong skill. Big takeout. Alicia Moses, much appreciate your time. The manager for the consumer education at Financial Sector Conduct Authority. This in ahead of Money Smart Week, which puts a huge emphasis on smart money, financial foundations for a resilient future. We know about smartphones, but you know what? Who buys you the smartphone is smart money. Think about it. Ondela Mbana is here with the news. It's just gone 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, court dismisses a report on safety in South African rural communities and dissolved the South African Tourism Board considering legal action. For SAFM News, I am Ondela Mbana and a very good afternoon. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation has dismissed the 2024 U.S. Human Rights Report's commentary on safety in South Africa's rural and farming communities. The report claims that South Africa's human rights situation had worsened, citing cases of arbitrary and unlawful killings, arrest and detention, and the repression of racial minorities. DIRCO spokesperson Crispin Piri says government remains committed to ensuring the safety of people living in rural areas, including farmers.
We are committed to implementing our National Rural Safety Strategy. This is a priority, and we can confirm that a total of 893 out of 900 identified rural police stations had fully implemented the strategy. This is an important development. Working with all partners in the rural areas, we will ensure that rural safety is upheld by everyone who lives there.
The dissolved Board of South African Tourism says it's exploring various options, including legal action, following the decision by the Minister of Tourism to dissolve it yesterday. They say they were surprised by Minister Patricia de Lille's decision, who cited an irregular meeting held on the 1st of this month, which they say never happened. The board says what happened was merely to pass a resolution by round robin via electronic communication. Lawson Naidu is one of the members of the dissolved board.
There was no meeting of the board, whether it was regular or irregular. There was simply no meeting on the 1st of August, so the minister is factually incorrect. As to what the real reason is, I think only the minister can really answer that question. But what I will say is that the minister has acted as soon as the board has taken a decision to place the CEO on a precautionary suspension, which was a decision taken by the board last week, which was communicated to the CEO as well as to the minister. The minister seems to have acted in response to that. And these are serious allegations. They are untested at this point, and the board was in the process of establishing an investigation to verify those allegations of serious misconduct against the CEO.
SARS Commissioner Edward Kieswerter says the Revenue Service is on track to meet its targets. He says he will meet with the Finance Minister tomorrow to provide an update on the progress. The 2025 tax filing season, which officially began in July, is set to run until the 20th of October for most non-provisional taxpayers. Kieswerter was speaking at a fundraising breakfast for the Ahmed Kathrada Legacy Foundation. He cautioned against any political interference in the work of SARS, stressing the institution's need for independence to operate effectively.
To date, 7.3 million taxpayers have already been assessed. 5.8 of them didn't have to file a return. The others who submitted a return, almost 90% of them would have been assessed in under 5 seconds. SARS is working hard, we're on track, and in fact we will meet with the Minister tomorrow to review that progress and to see how we can strengthen revenue collection and deliver an outcome which is more positive than what the Minister estimated in Budget 3.0.
Build One South Africa has set out clear conditions for it to consider joining the Government of National Unity. Busa leader Mmusi Maimane says they will not join a GNU with parties that are racist and want to divide the country. Busa leader says while the ANC has not approached them for formal discussions, informal talks with various parties in the GNU are ongoing. Maimane addressed a media briefing in Rosebank, Johannesburg this morning.
Non-racialism, upholding of the Constitution, their commitment to an economy that grows, people who are not corrupt, and we have ethical leaders. That can spread across multiple places. because there are parties that are patently corrupt. Now you have those parties also in the GNU. I can't. I have a genuine challenge with parties who simply say, we only represent this race. That is a challenge. So I'm not going to say this one, that one.
A foreign visitor has been arrested in the Turkish region of Cappadocia for allegedly performing a pole dance at a flagpole flying the national flag. Local officials said the young woman was under investigation for offending the nation's moral values during what it described as a heinous incident. The BBC's Mike Daventry has the details.
The video shows a woman dressed in blue leggings and a white t-shirt performing some gravity-defying twists and turns over a scenic hilltop. The problem appears to be her choice of location, a flagpole, specifically one flying the Turkish flag in Uçhisar, in the tourist hotspot of Cappadocia. It's not clear if the woman, who's not been named, is still in Turkey.
Recovering the top story, the Department of International Relations and Cooperation has dismissed the 2024 U.S. Human Rights Report's commentary on safety in South Africa's rural and farming communities. I am Ondilambana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Ribeiro pushes for Sundowns' departure, basketball to start 2 days before LA28 opening ceremony, and we talk to Mamelodi Sundowns Bryanston supporters Exco about their inaugural paddle day. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 eastbound in Germiston has a crash reported after Croft Road. The N1 northbound in Midrand, a stationary truck before Samrand Road, and on the N3 southbound in Alexandra, a stationary vehicle before London Road. In KZN, Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park and track congestion reported in the Rosberg area, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound, a stationary vehicle on Plattekloof Hill, all lanes are open. Voortrekker Road outbound is slow moving through Maitland, and Main Road outbound in Observatory is slow moving towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
I work at Optima College. We offer distance learning solutions.
How is it that OUTsurance provided the solution for you?
918 Rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible.
Yeah.
You're helping people to do better, and OUTsurance is doing better for you.
Definitely. If OUTsurance will not be able to beat your current premiums, remember there's that 500 Rand that you could get.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Tell me, what brings you and OUTsurance together?
You know, Jacques, I've been battling to get a nice car insurance, man. Someone that can give you nice service. Whenever you call them, they're there for you. You know, OUTsurance, I found them. I'm saving a cool $360.
Why put yourself through the pain? Be like Jermaine.
Yes, be like Jermaine and sign up with OUTsurance.
Get the real deal with the real savings.
Yes, there we go. I made the right move.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Iman, can you believe my Gogo reads with me every single night?
My dad plays soccer with me.
But my dad walks me to school every single day.
My mom works all day and I love it when she arrives home and gives me a big squishy hug. Oh man, we're so loved.
What did you do today? Visit
holdmyhand.org.za.
Together, we can change their future. This is an SABC supported initiative.
Hi, I'm Zycard. Catch me every Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Spotlight as we bring you blow-by-blow sporting action, news. That's Spotlight every Saturday. You don't want to miss it.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, we're going to have the Channel Africa SFM collaboration in the countdown to G20, and today looking at the role of civil society. Very important conversation, that. But first up, I need to hear you. K's in Limpopo. You're live. Go for it. What's your point?
Hi, Ashraf.
Yep.
My name is Case.
Yep.
I just wanted to ask South Africans, and you included, this question. Don't you think our animosity with the U.S. currently, I believe CIA and Mossad are busy in our country?
Sorry, I'm not clear. What do you mean? Just be very clear. I'm not too sure. I heard you say our animosity to the USA. Just repeat after that.
No, okay. Maybe I might have used a wrong term there. U.S. it's at most of the time against what's happening in South Africa.
Yeah.
The tariffs and all that stuff. Don't you think CIA and Mossad are at work to destabilize our country? Don't you think so? Maybe let me leave that question for other people if they understand.
Well, let me
to ask it.
Okay, I'll leave it to them.
I'm going to quote Professor Sachs,
yeah,
who said, quoting Henry Kissinger, said, "To be an enemy of the U.S. is dangerous, but to be the U.S. friend is fatal." Example. Look at what Zelensky and Russia is happening. That's a proxy war of the Americans.
Okay,
That's my comment. My comment.
Yeah.
If you understand my question, maybe other people can contribute as well. But that's my own personal observation.
Anyway, you've raised it, and that's the purpose of who moves the pulse. You've done just that. Thank you for that call, case in Limpopo. Right. Here's one. How can the AU be effective when countries emphasize their sovereignty and sign peace treaties in Qatar and the White House? From Tabo in Soweto. But you can do both. Why can't you do both? Think about it. Here's one about the EFF comments we had earlier.
Hi, Ashraf. Hi, listeners. I think just with regards to America's reaction to our defense minister going to visit is purely because Iran has been labeled as a terrorist country. It's the source of major terrorism throughout the world. Now, does the EFF condone terrorism?
I mean, I hear that part, but listen, there's a lot that happens in Iran that I certainly would not support at all. But at this point in time, there are many countries that can also be accused of committing acts of terror, including the USA. And I say that because if they support an attempt to destabilize other countries and kill off many people, then they could be accused of the same thing. On the other hand, at this point in time, from a South African perspective, good or bad, they have a relationship with Iran. And they, in fact, so does the BRICS, which South Africa is a part of. Is that contradictory? Think about it.
Afternoon, Ashraf. 2G's Pretoria. The general did not just follow protocol, Ashraf. The general was just supposed to ask for permission from the president, and then the president was supposed to contact the Oval Office to ask if the general can visit Iran. There wouldn't be any stories here, Ashraf. Simple. Thanks, man.
Well, listen, I hear what you're saying about the rights of, whether they should ask. But it does tell you that they're not talking to each other, which is like very, very puzzling if that is the case. Like, why wouldn't? It's not just about permission. Why would they not be talking to each other in the first place, right? Now, we'll pick out some more comments as well just in a moment. Here's just a quick comment. Good afternoon. We are together from Mount Fletcher. Okay, just making the point. Thank you for that, right? And there's another. In fact, what we'll do, I'll read some of the other comments just now. We're going to connect with the Channel Africa team, and we will do that pretty shortly. Here's one about South Africa.
Hello, Ashraf. South Africa is not a state or part of the U.S. We are sovereign, independent. We can visit whoever we want and make friends with whoever we want. So what if we tell them not to be friends with Israel and stop supporting them? Or if we ask them to explain their support to Israel, which we don't support, will they accept that?
Well, clearly, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. Now, the counter to that is that, which some people have said, forget about who's nice and who's not nice. Does South Africa need the USA more than the USA needs South Africa? I'm talking about economically. Who needs each other better? I'm not talking principles, it's just economic. Think about it.
Good day, Ashraf. Hope you are well.
I went to the same school that my father and my brother went to. They were good in maths and science. Whereby when I went to the school was very happy that at least we have someone from this family who will continue with the legacy. Did I not disappoint, Ashraf? Did I not disappoint? To a point where I had to change a school, move from that school to another school. So yeah, it happens. It happens. Sipho here in Tabazimbi.
I just knew where that was going to go when you talked about maths and science, and then you finally said, did I not disappoint them? Okay, but I mean, that's exactly the point. There's a reputation. You get some schools where there's 5 children, all 4 are doctors, and the 5th one comes up. You just expect that person to be the doctor as well.
Afternoon, Ashraf. 2Gs Pretoria. The general did not just follow protocol, Ashraf. The general was just supposed to ask for permission.
Oh, okay, wait. We've played that one. I'm not sure why it hasn't deleted. Let's do this one here.
Hi, Ashraf. Hi, listeners. I think the EFF does have a point. We are a sovereign country. We have the right to have whatever political ties, military ties that we want. However, just to go back to the AfriForum situation when they went to America to complain about Afrikaners being victimized, suddenly they were treasonists. This smacks a little bit of the apartheid era when ANC members and other political group banned organizations went overseas to garner support against apartheid. So, they did exactly the same thing during the apartheid regime. However, the Afrikaners are not allowed to do it. So, to me, this smacks of hypocrisy.
Well, I'm not too sure if I understand you correctly. I mean, Afrikaners, some of them, not the Afrikaners, some Afrikaners went to the USA to lobby support, to put pressure against South Africa because of what they perceived as the treatment of Afrikaners or discrimination. But if you're a general of an army and you want to meet the general of another army as part of your work in the army, like that's not going against government specifically. I mean, why would that be a problem? Think about that.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. This is Mbongo Sundisa. Mr. Ashraf, can the Department of Health, not the department, national government or Gauteng government provincially, can they please name Tembisa Hospital, Papita Deokaran Hospital, please, man? I don't want people to forget about what this lady died for. I say, please, Mr. Ashraf. Thank you.
Well, look, you've just put it on the agenda, and I think others have done the same thing too. Let's see who listens. It sounds very like the obvious thing to do, isn't it?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. The EFF is right. No one has the authority to tell another state whom they must do a business with or whom must visit. So America is dictating everyone around the world whom they must talk to, whom they must trade with. Our former president Mandela once said, "Your enemy is not my enemy." That's good. EFF is right. I'm with them 100%. Let's all East London.
EFF is right. Let's see. In fact, let's take another quick call. We go to Alfred. Alfred, hello.
Hello, how's the stuff?
Good. You're live. Go for it. What's your point, Alfred?
No, good, man. Ashraf, what I'm saying, I think our parents, our forefathers, were colonized in some times ago. Now, we can't agree that today are us who are being colonized by the very same people who have colonized our forefathers.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be. Being colonized through the so-called our leaders. Our leaders are the people who must show the resistance against colonization, irrespective of the technicalities that are being raised here to say Hey, we are in hungry nation.
Yeah.
Hey, so and so jobs will be lost in case we allow not to be colonized by US.
Okay.
No, man, we can't.
All right, Alfred got that point. Maybe we should ask that question. Who are our leaders? Thanks for that. We'll now connect to Channel Africa.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right.
Simulcast every single Thursday afternoon, and our focus today really is, as we've highlighted, the voice of civil society within the G20 as we make our way towards that big summit taking place in November. And I must say, Ashraf, what an important voice this is, representing civil society.
And there's no question about it. You know, if we say it's all about the people, then the people don't have to be in parliament to be the people that has the real clout. The question is, how does it translate into something meaningful? So therefore, yeah, to amplify what you're saying, civil society, number one.
And yesterday, Mr. Mfundisi, you tabled a draft policy that was shaped by 14 civil society groups. How were those groups selected, those who became part of drafting this document, and what were perhaps some of the key priority areas or issues raised in the draft policy?
So let me start first.
Now, carry on. Go ahead. Please
go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Let me start first with who we are, the C20. In South Africa, the C20 is led through apex bodies of civil society voices. The NETLEC, in NETLEC, we have the community constituency that brings a wide range of stakeholders in civil society, youth formations, civic formations, women's formations, you name them. We also have the SANAC Civil Society Forum, which is made up of 19 sectors of civil society. But we also have issue-based organizations that operate in civil society. So we brought them all together under the leadership of NETLEC, a community constituency. The overall convener there, Mr. Thulani Chefuta, is the chairperson of the C20. I act as the Sherpa from the SANAC Civil Society component. But we have a leadership that's made up of 3 deputy chairpersons that deputizes Mr. Chefuta. They come from other organizations that we have. I am the Sherpa, and I have 2 sous-Sherpas that also come from there. Part of our leadership includes people that represent issues that relates to persons with disabilities. One of the deputy chairpersons come from there, Dr. Zuki Sonzo. And from the sous-Sherpas, we have a person that has been selected from organizations that represent issues that affect LGBTQI communities. So we have tried to ensure that we leave no one behind. But that is a team that drives this process in South Africa and provides a global voice for others, because this is not just a South African process, it's a global civil society process. To that end, we have an international advisory committee where the chairperson and the Sherpa participate in that, but we are joined by other leaders of civil society from previous host countries of the C20. We also have these 14 working groups that are made up of 3 representatives, a leader from an organization operating only in South Africa, another one coming from organizations that operate in the rest of Africa, and then from a global perspective as well. So we have made sure that it is Pan-African, it is global, it is still also South African in nature. We organize the 14 working groups also to mirror the issues that are the priorities of South Africa. This is to ensure that the policy proposals that we make, they find their way in terms of what the G20 would want to do. Part of the platform that has also been created for us is that through our working groups as the C20, we also participate in the working groups of the G20. Now that's where the governments come together. They are working on policy positions, policy proposals that should be taken into the global forums that are there to influence the world that we want to basically see. So ours is to ensure that through the policy briefs from each of the working groups, through the policy proposals that we make, we actually influence things to be in the manner that civil society would like to see them being implemented by government. It's not easy to ensure that all of those voices come together. But behind the scenes, we are making great strides to ensure that we consolidate and coagulate what these particular positions are from Africa, South Africa, and from the global south and global north, to ensure that the heads of state, they really indeed have something that will influence how they will do it. And that influence is not at the G20 meeting in November. It is the work that we are doing currently. In September, we'll be going to the UN General Assembly as part of the engagements with governments as well. What we want to see is that the pronouncements they make should include what we have articulated and advocated. And when we have done that, we can pat ourselves in the back that at least what President Ramaphosa says, at least what President Lula says, at least what President Trump, hopefully he will be there, is saying, reflects what we would want to see as this particular better world. So we have consolidated these 14 working groups into 6 clusters. There's a cluster that deals with issues of finance, a cluster that deals with issues relating to global governance, a cluster that deals with issues around food and poverty, a cluster that deals with issues that we have called transformative imperatives, a cluster that deals with human capital development, and lastly, the cluster that deals with just transitions and innovations. So all of those packaged and covered in what we will ultimately provide through our declaration, which will be the sum total of the policy pack that is made up of these 14 working groups that we have.
Now,
those working groups who are taking...
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it here in terms of, the key themes of the G20: solidarity, equality, sustainability. I mean, you have a key position in terms of being the Sherpa for civil society, right? So how do you link that, your C20 draft, your civil society draft, that would then support those ideals that I've just mentioned?
Yes, and that's why we have worked out these particular clusters. So in terms of issues relating to equality, they are linked to our cluster that deals with finance and global governance. In terms of issues relating to solidarity, it's the issues that are linked to our food and poverty and the transformative imperatives. And the last one deals with human capital and just energy transition. So all those proposals that we are making are linked to those particular themes, so that the things that we agree on, we want to ululate about them. It doesn't make us captured by government. No, what is it that we want? We want governments to say and do the things that affect communities and make community lives better. And the things that we don't agree, we will step on the highest mountains and call out governments that don't actually do those, including our South African government as the host country. But our civil society stakeholders all over the world are also part and parcel of that particular journey. We would want to see this as a better world, and we need to be there. We need to be present. We need to say the things that need to be said, and we need to say the things that others would not want us to say.
Okay, maybe good way to end it. Thank you.
South Africa Sherpa for the Civil 20. Thank you so much for your time and a really comprehensive look at what the C20 is about. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on our G20 feature.
Okay, and that, of course, is what we do every Thursday around this time between SAFM on the one hand and then Channel Africa on the other. Connected, like civil society is under the banner of G20, or in this case C20, which is civil society. And I think we must not underestimate the build-up to G20 and the type of extractions that we can garner for South Africa and for the African continent. Right, we're going to have more to talk about, including, you may be aware of it, yesterday we spoke about it, touched on it for a second, the dissolving of the South African Tourism Board. Well, there's a response from the Tourism Business Council, and we'll get their response to come. There's also your responses on whatever you think are the biggest issues that have moved the pulse of a nation all throughout the last 2 hours or so, and I'd like to hear from you. But first things first, let's get to the news headlines. It's 4:30 years on Della.
This week.
Thank you, Ashraf, on the news headlines. The chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Health, Dr. Sibongiseni Dlomo, says there might be a need for legislative amendments to address the issue of illegal foreigners in the country. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation has dismissed the 2024 U.S. Human Rights Report's commentary on safety in South Africa's rural and farming communities. And more than 20 countries have backed a joint statement calling on Israel to allow immediate independent foreign media access to Gaza. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hose.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda. SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound and four-ways queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive. The N12 eastbound in Germiston has a crash reported after Craft Road and Atlas Road in Boksburg, a crash near Top Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound, a stationary vehicle before Spaghetti Junction. South Coast Road is where truck congestion is reported in that Bayhead area, and the N3 westbound, a stationary truck at Key Ridge. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards Durban Road due to a crash on the inbound side. The N2 outbound is slow moving towards Bunga Avenue, and on Swartklip Road in Khayelitsha, protesting reported, so the road's closed between Spine Road and Baden-Powell Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
To me, let's talk soccer or football, and there's a central figure around Sundowns and the central conversation about him, right?
Absolutely. Mamelodi Sundowns midfielder Lucas Ribeiro Costa has requested to terminate his contract with the club and has referred the matter to FIFA's Football Tribunal. Now, the 26-year-old, who has been linked to Qatar SC and Fluminense, has been absent from training, with reports suggesting that Qatar SC tabled a high offer, but the deal looks to fall through as Sundowns are asking for more. Now, Ribeiro and his representative are now reportedly pursuing the case through FIFA and the Court of Arbitration for Sport, arguing that he has a right to cancel his contract and that any compensation should be limited to the value of the deal. Then in Olympic news, basketball at the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics will begin 2 days before the opening ceremony, which takes place on the 14th of July. According to a preliminary version of the competition schedule, the basketball medal matches will be held on the 29th and the 30th of July, and a number of other sports like cricket, football, handball, field hockey and rugby sevens are also scheduled to begin before the opening ceremony. Then in tennis, two-time Grand Slam champion Coco Gauff has parted ways with coach Matthew Daly just days before the start of the US Open. Now, Gauff will continue to work with longtime coach Jean-Christophe Farrell, and he has also brought biomechanics specialist Gavin McMallen. Then, as we continue to celebrate Women's Month, we are joined on the line by Head of Marketing and Communications at the Mamelodi Sundowns Bryanston Supporters Branch Exco. She goes by the name of Amantle Kanyuchi. Now, they are marking Women's Month in a very unique way by hosting their inaugural Paddle Day this Saturday at the Africa Paddle in Olympus, Pretoria East, and it's at 4:30. Just to find out a bit more about this event, Amantle, thank you very much for joining us on the show. A very good afternoon to you. Let's talk a bit about what inspired the branch to host a Women's Month Paddle Day, and why specifically did you guys choose paddle?
Afternoon to me, and thank you so much for having us on the show. Paddle, right? I feel like we should have probably started a female soccer team within the branch, but we wanted to do something fresh for Women's Month. We wanted something that brings women together in a fun and energetic way, and also just move beyond the game of football. We've seen that, in the neighborhood, paddle is such a fast-growing sport, and it just combines fitness, community, and this touch of elegance. So we felt that it would be the perfect fit for women. And we also just wanted to show that football communities like ours also embrace wellness and in a different way, on and off the pitch.
Well, one thing for sure is that the sport is growing in leaps and bounds, definitely.
No.
And I think what you guys are doing is quite interesting, mixing football and paddle. But how does this event tie into celebrating and empowering women, both with the Sundowns family and community at large?
For us, it's really about creating a space where women feel celebrated and they don't feel that they're just supporters of the brunch, but they feel like they're powerful individuals, which they are, and they deserve to be nurtured. So we looked at, the body, mind, and spirit, and that's why we partnered and aligned with different brands that fit into fitness and wellness, and just made sure that there's a bit of yoga here, there's a bit of paddle there, and a light brunch just to make people feel connected. And I must add that our male members at the brunch were very supportive. They raised a lot of funds to make sure that Saturday is possible, which really for us reflects the spirit of Ubuntu in our branch, and also that we are looked after as women at Bryanston Branch.
So strictly women, no men allowed.
No men allowed. They must also know, the ones that are listening from the branch, no men allowed on Saturday.
But I mean, from the Bryanston branch point of view, how important is it for you to create spaces like this outside of just match days?
It's very important for us. I mean, match days do unite us through football, but we also wanted to just extend that sense of community into our everyday lives. So by hosting events like these, we should also show part of the Sundowns family. It's more than just about the game of football. It's about building teams, it's about supporting wellness, and also just about uplifting each other as a community.
So for those interested in attending the day, what can they expect on the day?
Oh, on the day, they can look forward to a mix of activities. There will be a fun paddle tournament. There'll be a yoga session with Escape Yoga. We've had people that were very generous in making sure that this really happens. There'll be even more spoils from partners like Catrice Cosmetics, a bit of lipstick there. Yes. Women's Health Magazine and Total Sports was also very generous in terms of supporting us with vouchers. So more than that, they can also expect an atmosphere of sisterhood and just bringing together women and forming those connections that we need.
And just before I let you go, for those listening that want to get involved or support, how can they do that?
So they can join our branch by signing up as members, and whether they die-hard, Sundown supporters or just people that are looking for a sense of belonging and a family to connect to, our branch is always open. So they can connect with us on social media. On Instagram, we are at Sundowns_Bryanston Branch. On TikTok, we are Sundowns_Bryanston_ Branch. And on Facebook, we are there as Mamelodi Sundowns Bryanston Branch. And of course, if other brands or individuals want to support our future events, we are open to collaboration, so they can always reach out to us on our social media, or they can even email me directly, but I'll make sure that the email gets to Exco, so they can pop me an email, hello@coachamantle.com, and I will answer to that. And hopefully you can also join us on Saturday. Are you free? Yeah, come through.
I'd definitely love to come through. Wait, is the event free?
It is free for you. We've reserved a yoga mat.
Oh, nice.
I think this one is our first one just for the members and some of their friends. But in future, we'll definitely be opening up for more people to join us for events like these.
Amantle, thank you very much, and wishing you nothing but the best with regards to that day. It is Amantle Kanyuchi, who is the head of marketing and communication at the Mamelodi Sundowns Bryanston Supporters Branch Exco. It looks to be a very interesting day on Saturday. Just by the way, it's starting at 4:30, and it's going to be at the Africa Paddle in Olympus, Pretoria East. On that note, I'll have more in the next hour.
All right, perfect. Well, there we are. Sport, paddle, look at the mixture. Sundowns paddle, wow. Okay.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, the hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to We Buy Cars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy prams that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. We Buy Cars. Geared for family, geared for you.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 2 litre Spar Extra Shelf Life Milk, full cream or low fat for $31.99, plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 200 gram Jacob's Cronin coffee jar, or 230 gram refill for $144.99, plus 300 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million rand in instant cash. Prices valid until 24 August 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
What is Overtrail? Is it off the beaten path, over the edge of comfort, or the thrill of the road less taken? It's over every bridge, every obstacle, every trail, and over to that view that takes your breath away. Overtrail means going further, exploring deeper, surrounded by the comfort and sophistication of a luxury SUV. It's this spirit that inspired the Overtrail project. Experience Overtrail in the LX and GX range. Lexus. Experience amazing.
This week on FC Meets, Kisetso and Bandile are joined by journalist and sports broadcasting rising star Mpumi Manyisi. She bears all about her journey through the world of sport journalism and shares insight on retaining integrity and breaking stories. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 this Saturday, 23 August at 6 p.m. Also available on SABC Plus. FC Meets. Football made for community by community. Rechencha Game. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All, we honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Certainly we have those facts and figures with us. Baswana Mpatlele will give it all. You got news, local and global markets, but first up, the important results for Spur.
Yeah, Spur, they give us the full year results, Ashraf. This is the family-loved business. It's also the owner of the likes of Panarotis, Doppio Zero, Hasa Grill, amongst others. And they deliver a good set of results, very positive, with good momentum. Despite a tougher consumer environment, they reported 11% in group revenue, franchise sales up 8%, they delivering profits of around 17%, return on equity at 31%, and this is all positive thanks to the brand renewal efforts they've made with management there. Data-driven marketing involved AI to improve the loyalty of customers in terms of having to increase the average spend, which has resulted in positive earnings for them. They have a high cash generation, and they're not only enjoying it themselves, but enjoying it with shareholders, with dividends up 40%. They've increased their number of overall stores by 23%, mainly in South Africa. They remain a resilient company, and the stock was up 10%. In the market, Ashraf, we're seeing investors are digesting global data. We're on the business activity side, where the likes of Eurozone gave us their PMI numbers. They reflected an expansion above expectations. The service sector and the rebounding in manufacturing is being very supportive. The US, when we look at it, it's just showing marginal gains. Manufacturing is rebounding, but service sector has shown some exhaustion in terms of the business activities that is happening for them. Locally, we heed to the buy the dim mentality. As volatility is low, the dollar remains bearish, offering ease of capital in South Africa. Positive earnings was also supporting our sentiment. Investors are looking ahead to the US Fed meetings later today and the Jackson Hole meeting tomorrow. This is at a time where the US Fed has also got a new data point have increased as an early indicator of concerns. Gold price is trading flat at $3,338 an ounce. Oil is up 0.4% at $67.20 a barrel. The US indices are down 0.2 across the board. European indices are down 0.6 in terms of DAX, and FTSE is flat. JSE is trading higher, up 0.7, thanks to a resource sector rebounding strongly, 3.2%. Industrials is down 0.3. Financials are flat. Looking at the rand, we're sitting at 1770 against the dollar, 2058 against the euro, and 2380 against the pound.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Paswane. We'll do it again tomorrow. But of course, Jimmy Muyaha comes up for an hour from 6 to 7 this evening. Do not miss that.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Tell you what, let's talk tourism. It came through last night, or late yesterday, that the South African Tourism Board was disbanded by the Minister, Patricia de Lille. So disbanded, dissolved, okay? And different people have different opinions about it. One of them is the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, which is TBCSA. So with me is the CEO of the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. That's Chifiwa Chibengwa. Appreciate your time and thanks for connecting with us on the National Pulse. Jeffima, do I have you there? Yeah.
Yes, I am here.
Okay. Do I take it based upon what I've heard that your organization are not happy with the dissolving of the board, and certainly this has got your pulses racing?
No, absolutely. Look, we have issued our own press statement after we have met with the minister, and also we met with the board that is now dissolved to understand each side of the story, so that we can be able to make up our minds. And after having those two meetings, it's apparent to us that the board that the minister put in place after the previous board chairperson and deputy chair resigned, citing various things, and also another board prior to that was dissolved by the same minister. So we put these nominations in to say these are the people that we believe have expertise, and also the minister brought other people from legal background and others to come in to strengthen the board. And we don't believe, from the explanation that we got, that whatever the board may have done or not have done warrants the board to be dissolved. And that is where we are on that matter. And we have made this clear to the minister when we met with her, when we asked various questions. The fact that we're talking about the board that didn't have a chairperson, because the chairperson resigned on the 31st of July. The board didn't have a deputy chair for quite a number of months, probably about 8 months. And the minister could have just appointed one of the people there as an interim chair or acting chair so that the board can function. So if the board had a meeting or selected someone to be the point person at the board, we don't believe that warrants this type of action in terms of dissolution of the board.
Well, okay. In your conversations and with the Minister of Tourism, Minister De Lille, right? I mean, so what did she say to you that was her reasons for dissolving the board?
I think she made it public, and part of of the discussion was that the board had a meeting which she believed was unlawful.
That's the special meeting on the 1st of August, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the special meeting on the 1st of August, of which the board said they never had a meeting when we spoke to them. They passed a resolution saying that this is the person who's going to represent us, because there is no one. There was no deputy chair. There was no one, and they had matters that they need to deal with. So they passed that resolution, and this is where the whole thing sort of came into fruition, and the board is now dissolved. So they say that they didn't have a meeting. They just passed a resolution to say here's the point person, because there is no point person, and that was that. And I don't believe that the board was doing that in a malicious way, from what they explained to us. So they were trying to be constructive and trying to move forward and trying to make sure that there's continuity until such time that the minister appoints someone to chair the board and someone to be the deputy. Okay. So I don't think that warrants that the sanction that was given to this board.
All right, so the sanction has happened, warranted or not, right? So we now have the board has been dissolved. What impact is that going to have on the business of tourism in South Africa? And of course your relationship, even yours, with the minister herself.
Well, it's going to have a huge impact. And I think one of the things is that we need to understand that tourism thrives when the destination marketing organization in this point, South African tourism, it's functional both here at home and overseas, and making sure that we put together programs that keep South Africa top of mind, and people are able to choose us as a destination of choice and travel to South Africa. So that's going to be problematic, because there are programs in place. We have been discussing many different things, and this board has been progressive in the things that we've been trying to implement for quite a number of years. In terms of the relationship between ourselves and the minister, look, I think there are many things that we agree on. The fact that we disagree on this particular matter doesn't mean that we don't agree with minister on other matters. And as social partners, in tourism, we need to be able to disagree on certain aspects, and we need to be able to sit down and figure out how do we move forward in ensuring that the industry, thrives. So it's not that we disagree on everything. It's just that on this particular matter, we don't agree with the action and the sanction that the minister have taken. But on many other matters, we agree. And by the way, in the past, when the minister dissolves the board, we did agree. It was warranted. It's just that in this instance, we don't agree.
Well, I mean, it's not like just you don't agree, because like you're a significant player, and so is the minister, and so is the board, and they all they are at, poles apart in the run-up to, say, G20, for example. I mean, that's significant. What just very quickly then, what happens next in terms of? I take it an interim board will be appointed. Do you have any idea when that will be?
We don't know. Here's the challenge that we have: is that if you have good people within the industry not wanting to be part of the board because of this type of things that continuously happen, who then is going to be part of the board? That becomes a challenge, because you're going to have people say, I don't want to be party to this, because anyone who goes to this institution, you're either going to be disbanded, or you're going to be removed, or there's going to be something that's going to happen. So people will just simply stay away. That's not good. So yes, the minister will have to exercise her powers, appoint the board. She has done that before, where she appointed a board of a few people. It was 3 or 4 people then for the whole year, while she's looking for board members. So I just think that the stability of the institution is at stake here.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Yeah. Thank you for your time. Maybe that's the issue, right? The stability of the institution is at stake. And there we are, certainly representing the business, the Tourism Business Council. That's the CEO. Much appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
September 5 is Casual Day. Time to get your Casual Day sticker and gear in support of persons with disabilities. Looking beyond the label, your contribution makes a tangible impact. Visit www.ncpd.org.za. Many thanks from the National Council of and for Persons with Disabilities.
This is an SABC supported initiative.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Well, still to come, we'll touch on 2 issues. One is that SAFTU, right, they are critical of Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, his comments regarding unions and their wage demands as linked to crime in South Africa, effectively weakening the mining system. That's one. The other one, we'll chat to Mmusi Maimane, who will talk about effectively, reflecting on another year for Build One South Africa, BOSA, but certainly commenting on the national dialogue and the GNU. All of that coming up after 5 o'clock. What happens now is I need to be talking to you. So let's hear it.
Ashraf, good afternoon. Sarata here from Limpopo. Look, I am saying doing the right thing in a wrong way, it's wrong. It's just like multiplying a number, a positive number by a negative number. It will give you negative. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, I wish you would expand on that, but then maybe I'll put a limit of 30 seconds, so understandably if you don't have much time, here's another.
My name is Jimmy Majola. I'm calling from
Akonpak in Vereniging. I'm against the mine because it's going to degrade the environment. The water in the Vaal River will be contaminated by the mine as it drains, and there will be noise and dust pollution around our area. So we don't need that mine. Thank you.
Which mine? I'm not too sure. You haven't given us any context. So the listener, the entire country who listens to you, because when we play a voice note, you talk to the whole nation, not just to me. Now they don't know.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, EFF it always rescue South Africans, to be honest. EFF it always rescue South Africans. Look at what happened about Guptas and all stuff about the Zumas and those scandals of them. It's all about EFF. We must take EFF seriously, South Africans. EFF is fighting for South African and the economy of South Africa. Thank you, bro.
Thank you. Well, there you are. Interesting you make that point about them, and I think you're right. They've been very critical of many issues that have gone wrong in the country. But let's take pay back the money. But then what happened next with, targeting individuals, and you know who I'm talking about, with pay back the money, and then what happened then in terms of how they dealt with them afterwards?
Hey, Ashraf, the other time the president of Cameroon was in a meeting and he asked the question, who are these people? Are they important? What am I supposed to do here? Am I supposed to start speaking? They were not aware that the mic was on. That's what he said. Thanks, it's Bongi here.
Thank you. Didn't Joe Biden say something similar? The question is then, who speaks for him?
DEAD, dead. That got my pulse racing, that's for sure.
The funny part, although you say you got your pulses racing, normally when you're dead, your pulses don't race, if you get my point. But yeah, I get the chuckle, DEAD.
Good afternoon. This guy, I think he's a Cameroonian or something. I feel his pain, guys. I really, really feel it. Because in Africa, we can't breathe. We are just suffocated by these people. They are coming all over. We don't know where they are from. They are just suffocating us. We need to breathe, guys. We need some fresh air.
Well, there you are. Listen, the Americans have also had a leader who's very, very, very old. But what we've had in Africa, certainly, is a few leaders who've been around 5 terms, 6 terms, 7 terms. Really? Why would we tolerate that? Now, I'm not saying that I can speak on behalf of another country, but just think about the culture that emanates within that nation.
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. Flores from the beautiful Western Cape. Ashraf, even though we are a sovereign country, we are still dependent hugely on the American economy, and we need to have trade deals with them. So somehow we need to tread very carefully on what we say and how we say it. We should not shut up altogether, but just be mindful of how we do things. Yeah, part of my salary comes in dollars, so yeah, I have an American employer. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Well, there we are. You do that. There's been a tourism board that's been dissolved, but you could be on that board because you're like the ambassador for tourism in the Western Cape, Florence from the beautiful Western Cape. You don't ever not say that. So there you are, Ambassador Florence from the Western Cape.
Good afternoon, Mr. A. It's nice for the EFF of Julius Malema to say whatever they want to say about America. But when it comes to unemployment, they are not going to help just about anything. It's nice to talk and say anything they want. But when the people who are actually suffering with unemployment, when American companies will pull off, Julius Malema is not going to help. Exactly the same way they say they must build shacks everywhere. When those people ban in shacks, Julius Malema is not helping. So talk is cheap when you're not the government. Pastor, Cape Town.
Thanks, Pastor. Well, I think you're right. But that's not just for the EFF, for anybody. It's very easy to take pot shots when you're in opposition. But to manage to lead is a lot more complex. It really is. And I think all of us, your role as in opposition versus your role as the leader or chairperson of any organization, I'm sure you've done it. Like even in a school governing body meeting, you're sitting there as one of the parents, and then you have to change tack because you've been elected on the board. and how did you have to adjust? It's never that simple. Right, Zwelinzima Vavi, we'll talk to him next. Musi Maimani as well. All reasons for you to stay listening and more. But now let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. Call for amendments to the law over foreign nationals and men sentenced for assault of Durban policemen. Good day to you. The chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Health, Sibongiseni Dhlomo, says there might be a need for legislative amendments to address the issue of illegal foreigners in the country. This follows recent developments where Operation Dadula is refusing foreign nationals access to public health facilities. Dhlomo says some of the relevant immigration laws are vague in their definitions.
Some of these acts are very wide and encompassing what some of the people are, in their views, are saying maybe they should actually have a bit of limitation. We would have, it's not possible for us as a country to have unlimited resources to deal with what is there in the world. But however, the engagement with Dadula and other stakeholders, you say, look, while there are concerns are coming in from this background, so it was true that there are sometimes clinics and hospitals where there's not enough medication, this and then long queues.
The Department of International Relations and Cooperation has dismissed the U.S. government's human rights report on safety in South Africa's rural and farming communities. The report claims that South Africa's human rights situation has worsened, citing cases of arbitrary and unlawful killings, arbitrary arrests and detentions, and the repression of racial minorities. Department spokesperson Crispin Piri.
We are committed to implementing our National Rural Safety Strategy. This is a priority, and we can confirm that a total of 893 out of 900 identified rural police stations had fully implemented the strategy. This is an important development. Working with all partners in the rural areas, we will ensure that rural safety is upheld by everyone who lives there.
The ANC Youth League in the Free State says the voices of the people have finally been heard. This follows the ANC's announcement of the removal of 7 mayors in dysfunctional municipalities in the province. The affected municipalities include Mafube, Letsemeng, Nala and Masolanyana, among others. The Youth League's Dihang Matamane.
And we are saying we'll continue to provoke the ANC until totally we have functioning municipalities that brings in a service delivery to our people. It's not that at least it's a first step. That's why we are saying we welcome it. It's a first step, and we are happy. That's why the Youth League is here. You can see now that almost every day when issues of our people are raised, we speak on their behalf.
A man has been sentenced to life in prison in the Eastern Cape for raping and impregnating his now 20-year-old daughter. The abuse occurred over an 8-year period. The accused was also sentenced for sexual assault to run concurrently with his life sentence. The NPA's Utqulatiali.
The man, who cannot be identified, was sentenced to a further 6 years imprisonment for sexual assault. The court found that he began sexually abusing his daughter when she was 10 years old, when she moved in with him following a family dispute. The assaults continued until the girl was 18 and she got pregnant by her father. She is now 20 years old and gave birth to a child in 2019.
3 men have been sentenced to 10 years imprisonment each in the Durban Regional Court for attempted murder. They brutally assaulted the commander of the police's air wing. The court heard that Captain Johan Grotius was off duty when he noticed a suspicious taxi in Amanzimtoti, south of Durban, in the street where he lives. He approached the occupants in the taxi to ask if they needed help, but an argument broke out and the man was then assaulted with an iron rod. The court heard that he also was medically boarded from the police service after undergoing brain surgery. More than 20 countries have backed a joint statement calling on Israel to allow independent foreign media immediate access to Gaza. The BBC's Tom Bateman has more.
The statement is the first of its kind to be made jointly by countries who say their call is in light of the unfolding humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, adding they oppose all attempts to restrict press freedom and block entry to journalists. It calls on Israel to allow immediate, independent foreign media access to Gaza and condemns attacks on journalists there. International journalists have been banned by Israel from entering Gaza independently since the start of the war, in which at least 192 journalists and media workers, the vast majority of them Palestinians, have been killed, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists.
Top story. The chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Health says there might be a need for legislative amendments to address the issue of illegal foreigners in the country. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Hus.
In sports this hour, Bruce names Bafana squad for the World Cup qualifiers. Trevor Manuel appointed as chair of the 2027 Cricket World Cup Organising Committee, and 1 day to go to the Women's Rugby World Cup. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview, queuing on both routes towards Giluli's interchange, and the N4 westbound in Pretoria has delays towards the N1 highway. In KZN, the M7 has truck congestion reported at South Coast Road, so you're asked to expect delays, and the N3 westbound a stationary truck at Key Ridge. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road, and Stellenbosch Artiel Road outbound in Kells River slow moving towards Nooienfontein Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The boardroom heat is on and the pressure is rising. The Insurance Apprentice, hosted by the one and only Babi Moloi, is delivering drama, tough decisions, and big personalities every week. Expect bold moves, emotional twists, and contestants you'll either root for or roast. And yes, you'll be surprised what you learn about insurance along the way. Open up to the Insurance Apprentice, Thursdays at 7 p.m, only on S3. Open up.
Do you know what's hiding behind colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by 30 September.
The Bees want to impress their home crowd. They are digging deep for their first victory of the 2025-26 season. Meanwhile, the Villains are also chasing their first victory after a 0-all draw in their league opener.
Ball into Ollie Watkins and he's touched it home. Ollie Watkins breaks the record.
This is the Premier League. Witness Brentford FC and Aston Villa this Saturday, 23 August at 3:30 p.m. Live on SABC3 and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, what do you make of this whole SA tourism and the board being dissolved and the tourism council not happy with the board being dissolved, and the board being dissolved because effectively they did something, let's call it unconstitutional. That means they convene a meeting without a chairperson, and there is no chairperson at this point in time. So what do you make of all of that? And therefore the relationship between the Tourism Council, which really is like the operating authority within tourism in the country, and then the tourism board itself, or the minister in this case here, right? What do you make of all of that, if you have a thought on that too? Because as you know, the CEO is certainly not happy. But also even yesterday, I've heard public comments from OUTA, and they're not happy as well, just in terms of how they see things, right? If you have an opinion on that, go ahead and tell us. Also, that comment about the USA. Well, let me put this to you. Forget what, we've spoken about the EFF. You can listen to the podcast as well. But here's the broader question. All things considered, we know it is complex, but in the world you have to deal with complex situations rather. You have to deal with issues and principles you don't always agree with. You have to work together when you're dealing with organizations, right? So in that case, what do you think South Africa's relationship with the USA should be like? How should they agree in terms of their rule of engagement as a country? I can't say how should America agree, how should South Africa agree in terms of what they would sign up for. What do you make? I'd love to know. Let's talk about another issue and maybe the rules of engagement as well, because we have with us as well Nzima Vavi, the SAFTU General Secretary. Appreciate your time. Well, Vavi, good to connect with you as always.
Hi, Comrade Ash.
I am the comrade now. There we are. I don't know when else I've been called in, but thank you for your time. Right, let's talk about another comrade of sorts. He's been very much in the news.
Comrade.
He's been very much in the news. We're talking about Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, right? For the large part, very praised for some of his thoughts in terms of where things have gone wrong in South Africa. And it sparked up a whole investigation, which will start next week or a couple of weeks' time anyway. But that's one thing. The other part, and this is what he said, I think yesterday, 2 days ago, in fact, he said, when they were talking about shortages of police officers, I'm quoting him, he said, they are going down more to thank who? The unions, the labor people who said we want higher salaries for our employees. So the more government increases salaries, the fewer they employ. The fewer they employ, the more crime there is. The reality is that too many things are wrong in our country which contribute, and labor laws are amongst those. Right, where you fit in, you certainly represent a trade union, so you're very much in the labor laws are the problem group. Respond to this. You're not happy, I know.
Well, he's our comrade on the first issue you've mentioned. We have praised him for the stance he has taken against the corruption and against the abuse of power by politicians and corrupting of some of the police. And thanks to his bravery, we're now going to have a full judicial commission to look at the allegations that he has made. And hopefully he will then put these facts into the commission. And if they are proven, that may help us just to undo the massive damage that points to those misdemeanors. So that's the first point. So from that perspective, he's our comrade. We respect him for that. But on this one, we think that he has been misled. His information is absolutely wrong. And his perspective risks distorting the public understanding of a much more serious issue, i.e. the decades of neoliberal austerity and budget cuts that have hollowed out the police services and deepened the crisis of the ability of the state to protect its people, to provide to them better health care in our public institutions, better education, with 85% or around there of our schools without laboratories without security, with the criminal justice system literally on its knees. I've been harboring or laboring under the impression that we only now have 15% conviction rate in South Africa because of the inability of the police to detect murder in South Africa. I heard someone else who's producing a book saying that actually it's gone 11%. The rate of conviction of women that have been raped is now down to 8%. And this is not because of the wages workers are paid, and this is not because of the labor laws, because this is because of the systematic crisis of budget cuts, of austerity programs, and of mismanagement by the government. So because of those budget cuts, if we, for example, you look at our statement, we make a point that says that the national treasurer's adjusted estimate of national expenditure point this, that the budget has been slashed from 125 billion rands in 2024 to 113.6 billion in 2025. We've made our own analysis that shows that even though this year we saw a marginal 0.8% increase in the non-interest government spending, overall the impact, the effect of the deep austerity has not been reversed.
Okay.
Now let's look at this from this different aspect. We've looked and tracked down what are the numbers that all of us have been speaking about. The South African Police Services currently operates at approximately one police official per 425 people, if you look at the 2023 numbers. And but if you were to compare our numbers, even for 2020, 24-25, which amounts to one police officer for every 427 citizens, if you look at that against the United Nations standards, widely cited and consistently affirmed to be credible, you need one police official for 220 citizens to meet those benchmarks. We are not anywhere there. In fact, we are half of that.
So I mean, here's the point. To go back to Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi's thoughts, right? And I'm just paraphrasing it very differently. That this is how he may interpret that. For example, if a police officer needs to earn, let's say I'm going to put it in business terms, if a company's got 40,000 rand to pay wages and they're hiring 4 people at 10,000 rands each, that's fine. But if the minimum wage now goes up, and I'm just making up numbers here, if it goes up to 13,000 rands, right, then that company can only employ 3 people and not 4, so the one is short, and that one short employee, one less, then compromises their service delivery. Now, essentially, that's what he's saying. So you don't think he's got a point on that?
Well, people must lead by example. If you're saying that the police officials are earning too much, then propose that their salaries be cut by 50%. But then lead by example. Offer that your own salary as a general be cut by 50% so that more police officials can be employed. Nobody is ever going to agree to that proposition. The reality that General Mkhwanazi must accept is that we are living under the constitutional order. In the Constitution, workers have a right to join unions, to collectively bargain with their employers, and if things do not go to on their way, to use their power to force a settlement between the workers and employers. In the police services, they are all declared essential services. They can't even exercise that right.
Now
they
you
can
made
only bargain.
Okay, you made the point, and I'm quoting you. When we say who is to blame for the shortage of police, you're saying budget cuts, not wage demands, are the real crisis. So what for you then would be the solution, keeping in mind there are budget cuts, and the budget cuts come from either because the Treasury has got far too much to spend to too many different issues to put fires out, or in fact there's also reduced income because of a country that is just showing negative growth for many, many years now, right? But there's also a need, as you quite rightfully point out, for each one to have a living wage, right? But how do we then get that balance right? What would be your suggestion?
Number one, urgently restore policing budgets, reverse that 9% cut, and scale up to match the population growth and service demand so that we can go closer at least to the United Nations benchmarks. 2, fill all funded but vacant posts in the police servicing. Do away with austerity programs that hollow out capacity in the name of fiscal restraint. And that's where we're asking the General Mkhwanazi. Rather join us. We march every day policed by his people. Every time when there's a budget, when there's a medium-term budget policy framework statement, we are in the streets protesting to ensure that the police have sufficient numbers and that workers there are given a living wage so that they can afford to provide for their families.
Okay.
And then invest in training, in tools, in accountability structures, so that every officer is equipped as a professional and trusted by the communities that they serve, because they can provide them with the protection they are so desperately need.
Some may say, that's the complexities of a magic wand trying to get things right, which I really don't want to be the president or the minister of finance anyway. But here's the last thing very quickly. Again, COSATU, I see, has been saying they've also disappointed in Mkhwanazi's comments, saying it runs the risk of creating unnecessary tension. Now, you're not COSATU, I know that, right? But do you think it may, cause unnecessary tension? And maybe significantly, have you picked up the phone and have a chat with Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi anyway to say, hold, I think you're offside on this?
I'll try to reach out to him personally, because there's this side of ourselves that just love him. But here he is now reinforcing right-wing, neoliberal austerity programs. This is music to the South African conservatives, bosses in particular, who wants to make workers almost slaves, whilst demanding them to generate profit for them. This is absolute great news to the Treasury, which have been cutting budgets left, right, and center, and creating the havoc that I've already mentioned in terms of what is the state of our public services.
Okay.
And this will be loved by the World Bank, IMF, and the rating agencies, that some very popular general is now reinforcing their right-wing solutions to the crisis that humankind is facing in our country.
Right, let's leave it at that. I'll tell you, from my side, I just want things to be win-win across the board, as opposed to, as you're saying, music to certain interest groups. But you are part of an interest group. Much appreciate your time. I was going to say General Zwelinzima Vavi, but no, you're going to correct me on that one there, Zwelinzima Vavi. Speaking on behalf of SAFTU, much appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
The Springboks return to the pitch in search of revenge. But the Wallabies want to continue where they left off last weekend. Which green and gold between the two nations will walk away victors? This is the Rugby Championship. Witness global class rugby action. South Africa versus Australia on Saturday, 23 August at 5:10 in the afternoon. Live on SABC radio stations. All SABC radio stations are also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. The Uganda Cranes have a strong belief that they will celebrate to the referee's final whistle. But the Lions of Teranga trust their mission in search of a semi-final spot. This is the quarter-final encounter of the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Catch Uganda versus Senegal this Saturday, 23 August at 4 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, so moving from the pronouncements of Zwelinzima Vavi to that of Mmusi Maimane. As you know, he heads up the Build One South Africa, Boza, so the leader there. And his party has outlined plans in terms of the party's political agenda for the fourth quarter of the year. Also gives them a chance, clearly, and certainly we talk about it, to reflect on the GNU and the national dialogue and maybe everything else in between. So with us then, Mmusi Maimane, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Good evening, good afternoon, and good afternoon to fellow South Africans. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Perhaps a good way to start is, a simple one-liner. If you had to describe the state of the nation today, what would that be?
I think crisis, and an economic crisis at that.
Yeah, and that crisis maybe would have been something similar you would have told me even in the run-up to last year's election, right? Which then brings me on to the next point, and I think you have a view on this one. What purpose has the GNU served?
The GNU was established to do two things: to elect the president and to coalesce a number of parties. What it hasn't done, in the sense of saying it was constituted around a statement of intent, it hasn't come up with a macroeconomic vision. It hasn't effectively articulated a plan as to how South Africans can prosper. And so as a result of the response to an economic crisis, it felt as though South Africa has not been led by a plan and a destination. It's led by turbulence. So we respond to tariff wars, we respond to geopolitical issues, we respond to some of the domestic issues that we see. But what we haven't been able to put on the table is what side of South Africa do we want to see in a number of years? And so as an absence of that, the GNU, I can only assume, has done its job in electing the president, but it hasn't translated all of that to how it will benefit the people of South Africa.
And are you surprised in doing just that, the sense of attrition between the different political parties that make up the GNU? Are you surprised at that, keeping in mind they do have their own policies, but they come together for, one broader cause, and maybe that's not quite happened?
No, I'm not surprised at all, because there is no organization that's ever functioned without a vision. A nation simply can't do that. And so as a result of that, everyone does what is best in their own eyes. So I could really federate the GNU and look at each constituent partner and say, well, this party's done this here and that party's done that there. But let's be honest with ourselves as South Africans and look at the overall trend lines. Economic growth has been at less than 1% for the last 10 years. This year, we run the risk of effectively entering into a very difficult period with the fact that quarter one was 0.6. This next quarter's results show increase in joblessness. And ultimately, with now tariffs coming on board, we run the risk of facing more higher levels of unemployment. Inflation is at 3%. Crime has gone up to 64 murders per day. And more than anything, when we look at our educational outcomes, whilst pass rates have gone up, in terms of the percentage of students getting through, they're still getting through at 30%. So overall, the picture, when you look at the trend line and you say, what will South Africa look like in 5 years from now, unless something dramatically happens, we are not going to see that change. And worse, we're going to see multiple iterations of budgets being tabled as we saw this year without a coherent plan. And so for me, I think it's an urgent moment in our country. That's why to describe it as nothing less than a crisis would be to fail to treat it with the urgency it requires.
Okay. What then? There's been, talk about, it's really come from the ANC, about plans to expand the GNU. I mean, what's the BOSA consideration for that?
Ours is exactly as I've been saying. We've now putting on the table a plan for prosperity, and we'd like a consideration to say these are some of the economic reforms we'd like to see. We believe it's important that we are aligned on values, so that moves beyond just a statement of intent. How do you articulate that? Because when it's said and done, even parties say they are anti-corruption, but we see that they are corruption. We see when parties say they are not racist, we see certain aspects of pronouncements, etc. So now what we are saying is, let's move beyond the statement of intent, table a plan, elect ethical leadership, ensure we table a plan for how do we reform this country and prosper it. And then more than anything, we can't just also go into the GNU to increase the number of parties almost as a solve for the conflict between the ANC and the DA. We have to be in there with a view of saying the cabinet must be made smaller and rational so that it can deliver. Otherwise, we will join the list of parties that exist to elect the president or keep the president in office, and really the citizens are left behind.
What then about, linked to that in many ways would be then the role of the national dialogue. And I know you were there on Friday, right? What are your thoughts about the pluses and the minuses of the national dialogue?
I think all of us as a country need to recognize that there is a need for a dialogue, because it's not just the government on trial. It's us, South Africa, on trial. 31 years onto our democracy, we have to ask ourselves the question to say, yes, there are governance failures, and all of us have ventilated those, but there are some societal issues that we need to be concerned with. I equally so would say, as a person of faith, I look at myself and I ask myself the question, what has my community done or not done when I face children falling pregnant, I face a mother murdering their own children? At some point, this is not about just policing. It is about the very moral fiber of our society. And so this is necessary. But the negatives are, this is going to cost us R500 million. This is stopping a number of other programs. And ultimately, in the 13,000 events that are going to be now rolled out in communities, how do we ensure that those are not political mobilization points for the ANC, but rather become genuine points of dialogue at ward level?
Well, it's a good question to ask. Yeah? And you put the figure as $1 billion. We'll probably have that conversation too. But just the last thing as we're on to news time, where then does your party fit in terms of you're obviously evaluating your party too, and therefore your plans leading up now to next year's local government election?
We're working hard to get the most ethical, competent leaders that will come into local government. We're working with a number of parties so that the ballot paper doesn't become this long one. And ultimately, we continue to play this crucial, constructive role of holding the government to account.
And last thing, for the critics we've had even this week to say, too many political parties, cut out the small parties, they serve no purpose. How do you evaluate that your party, which is still fairly small, actually does make an impact on national politics?
Well, in our role as chairing the position of Standing Committee on Appropriations, we're doing a lot of work around the budget, but it's also our member in Gauteng who are fighting for communities on the outside. This idea that numbers matter in public life when it comes to voting. But actually, in terms of activism, I think we can draw inspiration from so many who stood for principle and fought. And yes, I am working with a number of other parties to ensure the ballot paper is less, but it's not going to come at saying to ourselves that we must forego the idea that there is a role for parties to play in holding people accountable, which I still think is an important aspect of our work.
Okay, that issue of the power of the one vote still stands. Mmusi Maimane, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse, and what would be a significant year coming up, certainly for the party and your party, and certainly the country as well. Appreciate your thoughts here. Let's get to the news heads now. Here's Greg House.
In the headlines, Tiger Brands announced a voluntary recall of its Benny beef and chicken flavoured stock cubes due to inaccurate labelling. The chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Health says there might be a need for legislative amendments to address the issue of illegal foreigners. And the Ukrainian president has called on allies to put Russia under greater pressure to stop the war. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 westbound has delays on the link to the N1 South at Diepkloof interchange. The N1 southbound in Pretoria is a crash before Rigel Avenue, and the M2 eastbound has delays towards the Cleveland Road exit. In KZN, the N3 is queuing on the link to the N2 North at Spaghetti Junction, and the N2 northbound is where a crash is reported after Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound has a stationary truck opposite Canal Walk. The N2 outbound is slow moving towards Muway, and the N7 Jakes Hartwell Drive northbound in Goodwood has a crash reported after Voortrekker Road Junction, causing heavy delays. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
So we had a Springbok squad announcement the other day. We now have a Bafana announcement.
Yeah, Bafana coach Hugo Bruce has named a preliminary squad for the upcoming FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Lesotho and Nigeria. Mamelodi Sundowns players are back in the squad after being left out of the friendlies against Tanzania and Mozambique, with injured duo of Themba Zwane and Diano van Rooyen also in the team. Mduduzi Shabalala and Bradley Cross of Kaizer Chiefs have been included, with the Pirates also well represented with 11 players from the side in the national side. Their new faces including Kamohelo Sebelebele and Keegan Allen. Elsewhere, Arsenal have agreed a £67.5 million, around 1.6 billion rand deal to sign Eberechi Eze from Crystal Palace after hijacking Tottenham Hotspur. £60 million of that is guaranteed, and there will be £7.5 million in add-ons. Personal terms are close to be agreed. Then in Cricket South Africa has announced former Finance Minister Trevor Manuel as the independent chairman to lead a local organizing committee board for the 2027 ICC Men's Cricket World Cup. Now, Manuel will be supported by a team of independent and non-executive directors along with the ex-officio members. Now, with just 2 years to go, the board's main task is to deliver a memorable and distinctly African World Cup while also growing cricket in new areas across Southern Africa. The tournament is going to be co-hosted with Zimbabwe and Namibia, with 44 matches scheduled in South Africa across cities including Johannesburg, Pretoria, Cape Town, Durban, Gqeberha, Bloemfontein, East London and Paarl, and 10 more matches will take place in Zimbabwe and Namibia. Then in rugby, 1 day to go until the start of the Rugby Women's World Cup, and Springbok women stepped up their preparations with a joint training session alongside Japan yesterday. Coach Suez de Bruin is expected to announce his match day 23 tomorrow, with all 32 squad members available for selection. And Rua says that she expects Brazil to be a tough but important test in the World Cup journey.
I definitely think facing Brazil quite a few times on the 7th circuit, you win some, you lose some against them, some very close, some were a bit further away, slipped out of our hands. But I definitely think facing them at the Rugby World Cup, it's going to be a good one. I think as South Africans, rugby stays rugby, and we owe them one. But yeah, they're also a good side, quality players, and we'll definitely want to take this one from them.
Well, South Africa are going to get their campaign underway on Sunday. That is around 3:45. Then in Olympic news, basketball at the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics will begin 2 days before the opening ceremony, which takes place on the 14th of July. According to a preliminary version of the competition schedule, the basketball medal matches will be held on the 29th and the 30th of July. A number of other sports, including cricket, soccer, handball, field hockey and rugby sevens, are also scheduled to begin before the opening ceremony. Then in athletics, Akani Simbini's coach Werner Prinsloo has thanked South Africans for rallying behind Simbini as he chases his first major global outdoor medal. Simbini is fine-tuning his preparations ahead of the World Senior Athletics Championship in Tokyo, Japan, and that is happening from the 13th to the 21st of September.
Yeah, all I can say is, once again, like I've always said, thank you very much for all the support. We know Akani has a lot of support back home, a lot of people that believe in us to do the job, and we're just going to keep on doing that. We'll keep everyone in mind, but just thank you enough. We can't thank you enough for all the support.
I think he finished 4th at a Diamond League, if not wrong, around a day ago. But we still continue to keep a close eye on how his preparations are for the world champs.
Okay, like 40 is very low, but that's fine. If they got a plan, they got a plan. Win the big ones.
Hopefully it comes together finally. Well, with that said,
Get ready, South Africa! 12,000 athletes from every corner of the country will hit the ground running in the 5th edition of the Hollywoodbets Durban 10 Kilometer. A thrilling road race starting and finishing at Hollywoodbets Kingsmead Stadium. It's more than a race. It's all about community, good vibes, and rising to the challenge. Catch the action live on Saturday, 30th of August at 7 a.m. on SABC2, SABC Plus, and across SABC radio stations. #Let's Run and feel the energy. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the art and heart of jazz. From the 26th, 27th and 28th of September, Umu Sankare, Ababemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Mo and the Noisemakers, Najbonk Trio, Michelle Ndingio-Jello, Willem Siini, Gabby Mutuba, and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
This is the story of South Africa's creative heartbeat, where voices rise, where hands create, where stories live. From city stages to village festivals, from gallery walls to global screens, our creativity shapes the world. They are the storytellers, the dreamers, the makers. Join us as we honor brilliance and celebrate South Africa's creative excellence. The National Arts and Culture Awards 2025 on SABC 1 on the 23rd of August from 7:30 p.m.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Jimmy Moyahas, he hosts the SAFM Market Update from 6 to 7. Jimmy, in preparation for that, setting the scene, what have you got to spur us on?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. The Spur Group has given us numbers. They've given us a performance update on their financial year ended June 2025. We're going to speak to the group CEO and get a sense of how that business is faring. They have quite a few brands under the Spur family, brands you might know, brands like the Hussar Grill, like Rocco Mamas, Panarottis, amongst others. So we're going to get a sense of how those brands have been performing and what we can look forward to from their perspective. We've also got a conversation with the team at Exxaro around their performance. They gave us an update as well around their financial year for the midterm of the year, so interim results from their perspective. We're going to take a look at those numbers as well. Then we've got a conversation with the team at Standard Bank around G20 conversations as they relate to gender equality. It's an important conversation to be having at any point in time, but more especially when we have the opportunity to bring these conversations to the fore at the G20. And then we're going to wrap up the show with an SME conversation. This week, we're not speaking to a small business per se, but we are speaking to the team at Merchant Capital around what small businesses should think about if they're looking to expand their businesses and looking to grow their businesses. So we've got quite a full show coming up a little later on. Before we get to the show, a sense of how the markets have been faring throughout the day. It's been a day of, I suppose, modest recoveries, depending on what you have been looking at. And as we look at some of the markets, the resource counters absolutely loving the commodity pricing that's been happening or moving around throughout the day. If we look at the performance of the resource counters, up 3.3% on the day's trade. Financials basically flat, industrials down 0.33%, but the all share up 0.69% and the top 40 up 0.2% because of that stronger resources number. While we are looking at resources, let's perhaps take a quick look at commodity pricing. $3,345 a fine ounce is what one gold ounce would cost you if you were to buy that in the market. And if we have a look at the Brent crude price, $67.20 a barrel. Platinum 1,351, palladium 1,112. If we look at the currency side of things, the rand a little weaker against the US dollar, 17 rand 72, 23.78 against the British pound, and 20 rand and 58 cents against the euro. 1 Australian dollar will set you back 11 rand and 38 cents. And if we look at a Bitcoin, that would set you back 113,000 US dollars, or in rand terms, with a slightly weaker rand, still above 2 million rand, but ever so slightly. 2 million and 3,000 rand would be one Bitcoin in rand terms. And before we go, a quick look at international indices and international markets. It's been a bit of a mixed bag once again. The Asian markets were in the red and in the green at the same time. The Nikkei down, biggest loser on the day, 0.2% down, but the ASX in Sydney, the biggest winner on the day, a full percent to the green. European markets no different, slightly mixed as well. The FTSE was up about 0.14%, whereas the CAC 40 was the biggest loser in European markets, down almost 0.5%. US markets at the moment are in the red, about 0.33% in the case of the S&P, the Nasdaq, and the Dow Jones. So lots to take a look at there to see if we can understand what some of the driving factors might be there. We know that we had the FOMC minutes come out last night from a US perspective, so we're going to take a look at that. I have the privilege of speaking to a good friend, Simon Brown, on markets later on tonight. He's going to share his thoughts around what's been moving the markets. But that conversation comes to you just after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Perfect. Thanks for that. Looking forward to your show, 6 to 7. Sport then, 7 to 8.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right. By the way, you know that on a Friday we have the Friday Fireside chat, right? And of course, we didn't have one last week because last week we were all roads. What is it? We are marching to Pretoria for the national dialogue. So that didn't happen, but we'll go back to normal services being resumed tomorrow or today as it is, but certainly from tomorrow. So the fireside chat tomorrow, looking forward to that. We'll be chatting to Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng. You got that, Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng, my guest. Friday, fireside chat, 5 to 6 p.m. Set the alarms even now for it. Right, I need to get to you. We go to KZN first up. In Tlantla, let's get your thoughts. Hi.
Hey, yes, Ashraf, how are you?
Yeah, good indeed. Good to talk to you. Go for it.
Ashraf, I would like to disagree with Ntatam Konas because what is he trying to say is ignoring the wage gap between the Minister of Police and the police who are working at the bottom, you see. Because in terms of good labor practice, an employer is required to review the salary gaps to ensure that the gaps between the workers are justified. So, yes.
All right, so you're not happy with him, which is the same as what Zwelinzima Vavi has said, yeah?
Yes. Because we need to look at the gap between the minister and what the police are getting.
I hear you. Let's move on. It's not just about the minister. It's about just South Africa as a country in terms of the 1,000 priorities we have and how do we fit that all into the budget that we actually have. Are we compromised, not just with the policing or those police that you refer to with salaries, but we're compromised in terms of services across the board of our country, aren't we? Right, Z in Cape Town, let's hear your thoughts. Hi.
Hi, good evening, Ashraf.
Thank you.
Actually, you've just made my point. So I didn't know that somebody I regard as a friend was going to speak after Mr. Vavi.
Okay.
And that's no reason why I agree with him, but I'll contrast it like this. So I think it's quite simple. We've seen this formula repeat itself many times. If you don't deal with the systemic and the root causes, we are going to fix and improve nothing. What did we think we were going to get with things like bribery, corruption, cadre and crony deployment, regressive near-term economic policies? We are now feeling the pinch as ordinary South Africans in everything from education to healthcare to law enforcement. And therein, for me, lies an additional point. And I want you as a senior member of the journalist pool to really take this to heart. We're moving into a very dangerous, insidious phase in our deliberations with people in positions of power. We gloss over the root causes and we suddenly accept that the past is the past and we can do nothing about it. And we move to new short-term solutions that actually improve and fix nothing. Today, Deputy President Mashatile was in the press talking about how, no, we've got great policies, but actually we can't implement. Actually, with all due respect, I don't know in what South Africa he lives. Look at the policies and the statistical results and the lived realities of ordinary South
Well, you've got us thinking. You definitely have. Just one quick one and in one line. What do we need to do to turn this around? Is there one profound action? I mean, there could be 1,000, but just one.
There are many single profound actions. I think the one that stands out for me most, Ashraf, and it's probably two, but it's prioritization and through servient leadership. And by prioritization, concrete solutions, I'll give you three right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you treat SA Inc. as any other enterprise or company, there is an expense line. We are grossly overweight, starting with our cabinet, right through to a list of 3 pages of entities that are state-funded, 95% of whom ordinary South Africans have never heard. 2, it's the performance in the middle. If you want a thesis on that, listen to anyone from General Makonazi through to Mr. Cameron, through to General Vieri, if you want a different perspective and a different color spectrum to your learnings. And then finally, on the income side, we just need to do what every other economy, comparable economies like the Dubais, the Singapores, even post-colonial economies that have struggled out of war, Mozambique, to some extent Angola, Ethiopia, a post-famine, Rwanda, a post-genocide economy have done. Look at their policies. They are no less African and rooted but they are far more progressive and welcoming of capital.
Okay, I tell you what, I asked you for one line. You gave me the national dialogue in a couple of minutes, and I appreciate that. We should have further chat, Z. That's really fascinating. And I wanted just the audience listening in are making notes on this issue. That's Z from Cape Town. Right. Okay, more thoughts, more calls. You can tweet as well. Hashtag the national.
There'll be a channel where it will be broadcast live. Thank you.
Okay, good question. I don't know at the moment. I'll tell you what. I think one of the complexities, if there's going to be like 13,000 elements to it, because they're going to get down to grassroots, I can't see how all of that can be broadcast. But, maybe it'll be on some streaming live platform for everything. Either way, it may well engender a captive audience. I would certainly listen to it, just so you know.
Good evening, Mrs. Ashraf. Anonymous here in KwaZulu-Natal. If you can ask the minister there, they are the ones telling the comrades that they must slow down in the during hours of work, only start working 4:30 so they can get overtime later because they didn't finish their work for the day. I don't know how this thing works. You see the people go to the toilet, come back after 20 minutes, sitting there with the phones. So I don't know how to work with the unions. Sometimes the union, they come here, brief us, but the jobs are getting finished. They're not saving the jobs. They're finishing the country, I think, in my own way, my own thinking. Thank you.
Okay. Finishing the country. Strong words that may well effect a strong response from you. I'd be surprised if you didn't. After all, you are on the pulse, aren't you?
The Bavarians want to rubber stamp that they are reigning champions and open the curtain with victory. Meanwhile, the Red Bulls are confident they will cause an upset. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch Bayern Munich versus RB Leipzig this Friday, 22 August at 8:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
It is time to experience spectacular football talent from 19 African nations. East Africa is on full vibration. From Tanzania, Kenya to Uganda, the pitch personnel are hungry for continental glory. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Witness Chan 2024 on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 from 2 to 30 August 2025. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
So, we cover lots of things on the show, but we also do miss out on something simply because we don't have enough time. Have we missed any big story today that you think we needed to be talking about? If so, just let me know. You can WhatsApp it, call. You can tweet it out too, so we know exactly too that's what we missed. Certainly the EFF and the American issue is one of the big issues that dominated earlier on. You can listen to that as a podcast too.
Hello Ashraf, this is Mujekhi from Cape Town. I think you just missed the previous caller's comment there when he said South Africa should have asked permission. The general should have asked permission from the president, and then in turn the president should have asked permission from the Oval Office. And we all know where the Oval Office is. It's in the US of A. So, yeah, that's what I think you missed there. Thank you. Bye.
Well, I don't think we missed the point of it all. I hear exactly what you're saying. Yeah, point taken.
Ashraf, what, I just, in utter belief and no judgment intended to other listeners who are really commenting, and it looks like they are pro what the United States is doing to South Africa. There are certain countries which are allies with the US who are committing acts of terrorism as we speak right now. And why is Iran labeled a terrorist country, whereas other countries who are allies of the US are doing the same thing? I'll sound like I'm repeating myself. I'm actually shocked that even this discussion is happening, because what happened to the sovereignty of South Africa? I guess that's where we even need to start, you know. This is, for me, I'm just in utter disbelief. This is Thabiso.
Thanks for that, Thabiso. Well, I tell you, I think you're right that the Americans have been duplicitous, and whose terror. I don't want to bat for the Iranians. I think there's a lot that they do that's wrong. Okay, but in that wrong, there's South Africa that does ball with so many different countries that we can criticize. One of them is also the USA and their role with many countries in not just turning a blind eye, but actually but supporting their own. And I'm using the word acts of terror, because I think you'll get that very differently to just terrorism as one may understand it. Right. Here's another comment.
Good afternoon, SAFM, and to listeners. It's Sullivan, Governor from Durban. Ashraf, I'd just like to find out, municipalities who do not spend their budgets allocated for that fiscal year is not doing any justice to the municipality, because the money that is not spent the following year, when budget is allocated, it is cut drastically. So I'd like to know, if the municipality doesn't spend the budget allocated, do the management get the bonuses based on that? They're not spending their budget. I'd just like to find out.
Oh,
Thank
goodness.
you.
I'm not there. I wonder. Yeah, no. But I mean, you're right on the bigger issue. If you have a budget in a constrained economy to try and provide service delivery, and you don't meet that budget because you don't spend the money, that means a lot of people in the country are shortchanged, and that's no good. Well, talking of budgets, here's one. Hi, Ashraf. It's disgusting that after building a corruption-riddled palace for the Zulu king just before COVID, now the new king wants a new palace elsewhere with arts and culture money, but the artists are starving. Comes from Jen in Cape Town. Does Jen have a point?
Ashraf, the police commissioner is right. The union, whenever there's a bad service delivery in communities, that the employees that belong to the union are not performing, you will never hear the union condemning the poor service delivery we get from the employees that are subscribing to the unions.
Okay, there we are. That relationship, complex.
Hello, Ashraf. It's Brad here from Durban. For the first time, I think I will agree with the EFF. South Africa is a sovereign country. They can have a relationship with whoever they want, and nobody can tell them what to do. Yeah, but in the same vein, don't cry when your relationships affect your relationships with other countries. You can do what you want, sure, but remember there's consequences. That's all.
Well, I mean, I think that point is right, that South Africa should be sovereign and they can do what they want, but there's an unequal balance in terms of the economic trade-offs. And when one of the parties says, well, if you do what you want with us, then we will do this to you, and we can't afford that. I'm saying this now in practical terms, not in philosophical terms. That becomes problematic.
Hi, Ashraf. I think that the EFF have no position to or mandate to say anything about foreign affairs of this country. They are not in the government at the moment. And as far as the government's concerned, I mean, the ANC have really made a mess of things with Iran and the USA. Our general that went across to Iran, I think he needs to get fired. It just made matters worse, as did the EFF. Thanks, Mike in Kabeja.
Thanks for that, Mike. At that rate, we're going to have so many ministers and people in leadership positions just being fired. I mean, who's going to run anything? But some may say that, in fact, who's running it well anyway? Think about that too, right? By the way, you do know that all that we do on the show is put up as a podcast, so if you close.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Tiger Brands recalls stock cubes and calls for amendments to the law over foreign nationals. Good evening. Tiger Brands has announced a voluntary recall of its Benny beef and chicken flavoured stock cubes due to inaccurate labelling.